For thousands of years, the Jedi and Sith have shaped civilizations through their mastery of this mystical power. The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. But what happens when warriors arrive who need no force, no mystical energy, no cosmic destiny, only training, technology, and an unbreakable code forged in the shadows of a city called Gotham? The Empire would learn that some legends are born not from the Force, but from the darkness itself. The hyperspace lanes near Nar Shaddaa's moon flickered with an impossible light. Not the blue-white tunnel of a ship entering real space, but a tearing, screaming wound in the fabric of space itself. The phenomenon lasted 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, 7 figures and a damaged aircraft tumbled through the dimensional breach, scattering across the smuggler's moon like embers from an exploding star. Batman's last memory before the crash was clear. Darkseid's boom tube collapsing during the Justice League's assault on Apocalypse. The dimensional portal intersecting with something else, something vast and wrong. Then reality had twisted, stretched, and Bruce Wayne found himself falling through a tunnel that smelled of ozone and tasted of cosmic radiation fundamentally different from anything in his universe. He'd managed to angle his body during the fall, years of training overriding the disorientation. The ground rushed up, metal, rusted, covered in alien script he didn't recognize. Bruce hit hard, rolled with the impact, and came up in a defensive crouch. His cape settled around him like living shadow. The cowl's systems flickered, recalibrating to atmospheric conditions they'd never encountered. The air stank of industrial waste, exotic alcohol, and something else. A pervasive energy he couldn't quantify. Not radiation, not electromagnetic, something alive. Batman's first assessment took 3 seconds. Humanoid aliens moving through narrow streets, architecture suggesting a densely populated urban environment. Technology level approximately early to mid-21st century Earth equivalent, but with significant advances in energy weapons and atmospheric flight. No visible superhuman activity. Gravity 0.98 Earth standard. Breathable atmosphere with elevated pollutant levels. Conclusion: unknown planet, unknown galaxy, threat level undetermined. His comm crackled. "Man, Batman, do you copy?" Oracle's voice, strained but functional. "Systems are glitching, but I've got partial telemetry. You're not going to believe this." "Report." Batman moved into the shadows between 2 buildings, watching the crowd. Nobody had noticed his arrival yet. They were too focused on their own business. Deals being made in dark corners, credits changing hands, the universal language of crime transcending dimensional boundaries. We're somewhere else, Bruce. Not just another Earth. The star charts are completely wrong. Different constellations, different stellar radiation patterns. I'm reading energy signatures that don't match any known particle physics. And the comms were scattered across approximately 40 square kilometers. Batman's jaw tightened. The Bat family, separated in hostile territory. Status on the others. Nightwing's signal is 3 clicks northeast, same altitude. Red Robin southwest, underground level. Red Hood's, his signal's intermittent. Reading weapons fire and crowd noise, could be in trouble. Robin's signal is strongest, but he's 20 clicks out, completely different district. Alfred's with me in the Batwing wreckage. The crash damaged the hull, but most systems are intact. Stay hidden. Monitor communications. I'm going after the nearest signal. Batman paused, listening to the alien language surrounding him. His cowl's linguistic analysis software began building translation matrices. 60 seconds of passive listening, and he'd have basic comprehension. A scream cut through the night. Human terror translated the same in any language. Batman's head snapped toward the sound. 3 buildings down, in an alley illuminated by harsh yellow lights. He moved before conscious thought, cape spreading as he launched his grappling gun. The magnetic grapple caught something, metal scaffolding, corroded but stable, and he swung into the shadows above the street. The scene below crystallized into focus. 3 humanoid aliens, skin mottled gray-green, facial features vaguely amphibious, surrounding 2 figures in tattered clothing. Human figures. A woman clutching a child, both wearing metal collars that hummed with faint energy signatures. Slave collars. Batman had seen their equivalent in Gotham, though never quite so literal. The largest alien spoke in a guttural language. Batman's cowl translated. Payment overdue. Hut enforcers don't accept excuses. You come with us, or the child gets sold separately. The woman pulled her child closer. Please, 1 more week. I can get the credits. One of the aliens raised a weapon, bulky, energy-based, unmistakably lethal. No more extensions. Batman dropped from above. He hit the lead enforcer with both boots, 300 pounds of armor, muscle, and momentum, driving the alien face first into the Duracrete. The impact echoed like a gong. Before the other 2 could react, Batman's cape snapped out, momentarily blinding the one on the left while his right fist drove into the 3rd alien's solar plexus. Anatomy different, but physics universal. Air expelled from lungs. The enforcer doubled over. The blinded one swung his weapon wildly. Batman sidestepped, caught the weapon arm, and applied pressure to a joint that bent the wrong way. Bone, or cartilage, or whatever served the same function, cracked. The weapon clattered to the ground. 7 seconds. 3 hostiles neutralized. Batman turned to the woman and child. They stared at him with expressions mixing terror and confusion, as if unable to process what they were seeing. He understood. To them, he was something from a nightmare, all darkness and edges and unreadable intent. He softened his voice, let the modulator carry authority without threat. You're safe. Go. The woman grabbed her child and ran without looking back. Smart. Batman collected the fallen weapons, examining one. Blaster pistol, his mind catalogued. Particle beam or plasma discharge. Energy cell-based. Similar to, but distinct from, Earth's directed energy weapon prototypes. He tucked it into his utility belt. Intel first, morality second. Batman. Oracle's voice crackled in his ear. I'm picking up energy signatures converging on your position. Whatever you just did, somebody noticed. Understood. Batman grappled to the rooftop, scanning the street below. Armored figures emerged from the crowds, white armor, identical design, carrying rifles with the same energy signature as the pistol he'd taken. Military or law enforcement. Neither boded well for someone dressed like he was. Those are Imperial Stormtroopers, Oracle said, her voice tight. I've been scanning data networks. Bruce, this isn't just another planet. This is another galaxy. The Galactic Empire controls most of known space. They're authoritarian, human supremacist, and extremely hostile to unsanctioned vigilantes. You just assaulted enforcers working for something called the Hutt Cartel in Imperial territory. Batman watched the stormtroopers fan out in search patterns. Inefficient, predictable. Then I'd better find the others before we attract more attention. Too late. A new voice, smooth and acrobatic, came from behind him. Because you just made the most dramatic entrance I've seen since I backflipped off the flying Grayson's trapeze. Batman turned. Nightwing stood on the opposite edge of the rooftop, his suit torn in places, but his grin intact. Even in an alien galaxy, Dick Grayson couldn't help but make an entrance. "Good to see you, Bruce." Nightwing's expression sobered. "But we've got problems. I've been eavesdropping on the locals. This place, Nar Shaddaa they call it, makes Gotham look like Metropolis. Slavery is legal. The Empire controls through fear. And there's something else. People keep mentioning the Force like it's some kind of mystical power, like magic." Batman processed that. Magic. He'd dealt with it enough through Justice League Dark to know it existed. But an entire galaxy built around it? "We adapt." Batman's voice carried absolute certainty. "We find the others. We assess the situation. We find a way home. And in the meantime?" Nightwing gestured to the streets below, where slaves cowered and criminals prospered, and stormtroopers enforced order through oppression. Batman's eyes narrowed behind the cowl. "In the meantime, we do what we always do. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you." Below them, the smuggler's moon continued its endless night of vice and violence. But in the shadows, something new had arrived. Something the Empire, the Hutts, and every criminal syndicate in the galaxy were utterly unprepared for. The Bat family had come to the Star Wars galaxy, and they were about to teach it what real fear looked like. The reunion lasted exactly 12 seconds before the situation deteriorated. Batman and Nightwing moved across the rooftops of Nar Shaddaa's Corellian sector like ghosts, their years of partnership requiring no verbal communication. Hand signals, body language, and shared experience created a tactical synchronization that needed no force to achieve perfection. Below them, the stormtroopers continued their search pattern, methodical but unimaginative, relying on technology rather than instinct. "Red Robin's signal is strengthening," Oracle reported through their comms. "He's accessing local data networks. I think he's found a way into their planetary information grid." "Wait, Bruce, he's flagging something. There's a massive slave auction happening in the Duras sector, 2 kilometers from your position. 300 sentients scheduled for sale in the next hour." Batman's jaw clenched. Red Hood's position? Still intermittent. Last solid reading placed him near something called the Pit of Despair, apparently a gladiatorial arena in the red light sector. If Jason's there... Oracle's voice trailed off, the implication clear. Nightwing whistled low. Knowing Jason, he's either winning fights or starting riots. Possibly both. We split up, Batman decided. You go after Red Hood. I'll handle the slave auction. Bruce. Nightwing's tone carried a warning. 300 slaves means heavy security. Even for you, that's not a suggestion. Batman was already moving, grappling toward the Duros sector. Extract Red Hood. Rendezvous at Oracle's coordinates in 90 minutes. Nightwing sighed, but didn't argue. The beauty of their partnership was knowing when to follow orders and when to improvise. Try not to start an intergalactic incident. Too late for that. Batman swung through the artificial canyons of Nar Shaddaa, his detective's mind cataloging everything. The architecture spoke of layered construction over centuries. Lower levels older, darker, more desperate. The higher he climbed, the cleaner the structures became. Though clean was relative in a moon that functioned as the galaxy's largest criminal haven. The Duros sector revealed itself as a warehouse district, massive structures designed for cargo processing. Perfect for illegal operations, the authorities chose to ignore. Batman perched on a ventilation tower, surveying the target building. Security. 20 visible guards, mixed species. Weapons. Energy-based rifles similar to Stormtrooper armaments, but older models. Sensor grid. Primitive by Earth standards, but adequate for deterring casual investigation. Main entrance. Blast doors, magnetically sealed. Side entrances, 3, each with 2 guard posts. Roof access, ventilation systems, structural weaknesses in the eastern corner, where moisture damage had compromised the durasteel plating. Time to infiltration, 4 minutes. Batman descended in silence, Cape controlling his fall until he landed softly on the eastern roof section. His gauntlet's cutting laser, recently recalibrated by the suit's adaptive systems to work in this universe's physics, began tracing a circle through the corroded metal. 30 seconds later, he dropped into darkness. The interior smelled of unwashed bodies, fear, and despair. Universal constants. Batman's cowl switched to night vision, revealing a catwalk system above the main auction floor. Below, rows of cages held the enslaved. Humans, aliens, children, all wearing the same energy collars he'd seen earlier. Guards patrolled the perimeter, while a massive alien with blubbery features and reptilian eyes lounged on a repulsor platform. Speaking in that guttural language the cowl translated as Hutties. Finest merchandise from Ryloth, Kessel, and the Outer Rim colonies. The Empire's expansion has been profitable for those wise enough to capitalize. First lot, 20 Twi'lek females, suitable for entertainment or labor. Bidding starts at 5,000 credits. Batman's analysis took 3 seconds. The Hutt was the operations leader. Remove him, and the command structure collapsed. But the collars, they'd need to be deactivated simultaneously, or slaves would die in the crossfire. He tapped his comm. Oracle, I need you to walk me through disabling slave collars. Energy-based restraint systems with remote detonation capability. Already on it. Barbara's voice came back immediately. Tim's pulled schematics from the local network. The collars operate on a master frequency generator. Should be somewhere in that building. Shut it down. The collars deactivate. But Bruce, the generator has a dead man switch. If it detects tampering or the operator's biometrics flatline, it triggers automatic detonation. Batman's eyes narrowed. Sophisticated for criminals, which meant Empire-level technology. Someone with resources backed this operation. Can you override it? Give me direct access in 15 seconds. Batman moved along the catwalk, silent as death. Below, the auction continued. Lives being sold for credits, while guards laughed, and the Hutt, Gracchus according to the translations, savored his profits. Batman counted heads, analyzed weapons, calculated angles. The generator sat in a control room overlooking the auction floor, operated by a Rhodian technician whose attention focused entirely on the equipment panel. Amateur mistake. Batman dropped from the catwalk onto a support beam, crossed 15 meters of open space using the shadows between industrial lights, and ghosted through the control room door before the guard outside could turn his head. The Rhodian snout twitched, some instinct warning of danger. Too late. Batman's hand clamped over the alien's mouth while his other arm applied a sleeper hold. 5 seconds. The Rhodian went limp. Batman lowered him silently to the floor and accessed the generator. Oracle, I'm at the device. Plugging in. Okay, I've got access. Their security is laughable by our standards. Disabling dead man switch now, and done. You're clear to shut it down. Batman's finger moved toward the power switch, then stopped. The door behind him exploded inward. Not with conventional explosives, with the Force. Batman rolled aside as Durasteel shrapnel whistled through the space where he'd been standing. A figure stepped through the smoking doorway, humanoid and female, wearing black armor with red accents. Her face was covered by a mask with distinctive features, and her hand extended toward him with casual menace. "Interesting," she purred, voice electronically modulated. "The Force whispers of your arrival, yet when I reach for you, nothing. No presence, no signature, like trying to grasp smoke." She tilted her head. "What are you?" Batman's tactical assessment ran instantaneously. Force user. Telekinetic abilities confirmed. Unknown combat capabilities. Threat level extreme. He threw a smoke pellet. The woman, seventh sister, his cowl's audio pickup had caught guards mentioning earlier, waved her hand. The smoke parted around her like water around stone, held back by invisible force. She laughed. Parlor tricks against an inquisitor of the Empire? Batman's response was immediate. 3 batarangs in rapid succession, each aimed at different angles to account for telekinetic deflection. Seventh sister caught 2 with the Force, but the third, coded in Oracle's experimental electromagnetic disruptor coding, broke through her concentration and scored a line across her armor. She hissed, "You dare!" Batman was already moving, grappling line pulling him up and through the shattered doorway as alarms shrieked throughout the facility. Below, the auction descended into chaos. Guards rushed toward the control room while Gracchus bellowed orders and slaves cowered in their cages. "Oracle, I need those collars offline now." "Working on it. There. Collars deactivated. But Bruce, you've got company. That woman registers as something called a Force Sensitive. Their databases call her an Inquisitor. Imperial agents who hunt down surviving Jedi. She's extremely dangerous." Batman landed on the auction floor as guards converged on his position. 23 hostiles, mixed species, various weapon configurations. He'd faced worse in Gotham. He'd faced worse before breakfast. The first guard raised his blaster. Batman's weighted batarang broke the alien's wrist before the trigger could be pulled. The second guard fired, plasma bolts scorching the air where Batman had been an instant before. He was already inside the alien's guard, elbow strike to the throat, sweep the legs, appropriate the weapon, fire twice into the ceiling to create panic. Chaos was tactical advantage. Batman moved through the guards like a storm through grass, every movement economical, every strike precise. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Years of training against metahumans, gods, and demons had taught him that superior force meant nothing against superior technique. A Gamorrean guard charged with a vibro-axe. Batman sidestepped, redirected the momentum, sent the guard crashing into 2 of his companions. Another guard tried to flank him. Batman's cape whipped out, wrapped around the alien's weapon, yanked it free. Spin, strike to the nerve cluster behind the alien's ear, move on. 10 seconds. 14 guards down. The remaining 9 hesitated, their certainty evaporating. They'd been hired to intimidate unarmed slaves, not to fight whatever this shadow thing was. Enough! Seventh sister descended from the control room, carried by the Force itself. She landed between Batman and the guards, one hand extended. Batman felt pressure against his chest, invisible, crushing, telekinesis. He'd dealt with it before. Martian Manhunter had helped him develop countermeasures. Batman triggered the electromagnetic pulse charge in his utility belt. 3 seconds of focus disruption. Not enough to shut down his suit's hardened systems, but enough to create interference with force abilities that seemed to function through some form of energy manipulation. The pressure vanished. Seventh Sister staggered, confusion crossing her features. What? Impossible. Batman closed the distance, but she was fast, augmented by the Force, or simply well-trained. Her hand moved to her belt, drawing a cylindrical weapon. It ignited with a snap hiss, producing a blade of pure red energy. Lightsaber. Batman's tactical database updated. Plasma blade, contained by electromagnetic field. Temperature, approximately 20,000 degrees Celsius. Capable of cutting through virtually any material. Defensive countermeasures, extremely limited. Seventh Sister smiled behind her mask. Let's see you block this. She attacked with vicious grace, the lightsaber humming through the air in precise arcs designed to kill. Batman evaded rather than blocked, his cape's reinforced weave buying him microseconds as the blade scorched through fabric. He analyzed her pattern, aggressive but orthodox, following a specific combat form. Predictable. On her fourth strike, Batman didn't retreat. He advanced inside her guard, his armored gauntlet catching her wrist. The lightsaber blade passed within centimeters of his cowl, close enough that he felt his skin prickling from radiant heat. His other hand drove a taser into the gap between her armor plates. 50,000 volts. Seventh Sister convulsed, lightsaber deactivating as she lost concentration. Batman swept her legs, sent her crashing to the floor, and was already moving toward the slave cages before she hit the ground. All slaves, get out, now! Batman's voice, amplified through the cowl speakers, carried absolute authority. The enslaved didn't need to be told twice. They ran for the exits, years of imprisonment forgotten in the desperate scramble for freedom. Gracchus the Hutt bellowed in rage, his repulsor platform accelerating toward Batman. You've cost me millions. The Hutt cartel will... Batman threw an explosive batarang. The platform's repulsor system exploded, sending Gracchus crashing to the floor with a wet thud. 300 kilograms of criminal enterprise neutralized. Oracle, I need extraction. Already on it. Nightwing's got Red Hood. They're heading to the rendezvous. But Bruce, you've just assaulted an Imperial Inquisitor and freed slaves in Hutt territory. Every bounty hunter and Imperial garrison on this moon is going to be hunting you. Batman grappled toward the hole he'd cut in the roof. Seventh Sister's enraged shouts echoing behind him. Then we'd better make ourselves hard to find. He emerged into Nar Shaddaa's eternal night, where 300 freed beings scattered into the city's depths, carrying stories of a shadow creature that fought like a demon and vanished like smoke. The Bat family had been in this galaxy for less than 2 hours. They'd already become legends. The Pit of Despair lived up to its name. Nightwing perched on a corroded support beam 40 meters above the arena floor, watching the spectacle below with growing disgust. Nar Shaddaa's criminal underworld had gathered here. Hundreds of aliens, humans, and species he couldn't identify, all screaming for blood while combatants fought and died for their entertainment. The air reeked of sweat, alcohol, and something else. Desperation aged into tradition. Oracle, I've got eyes on the arena. Nightwing subvocalized into his comm. Please tell me Jason's not actually. Center of the pit. Sorry, Dick. Nightwing's jaw tightened as he focused on the arena floor. There, surrounded by the corpses of 3 alien warriors, each twice his size, stood Red Hood, his helmet cracked but functional, his armor torn and bloodied. Jason held a vibro blade in each hand, stolen from fallen opponents, and his stance screamed dangerous competence even from this distance. Across from him, a massive Hauk gladiator raised a weapon that looked like a powered mace crossed with a pile driver. The crowd roared. Credits changed hands as bets were placed. How long has he been fighting? Nightwing asked. Telemetry suggests 47 minutes. He's won 8 consecutive matches. Oracle's voice carried reluctant admiration. Jason's always been good at surviving. Yeah, by being too angry to die. Nightwing studied the arena's layout. Guards at every exit, armed with blaster rifles. Energy barriers preventing escape from the pit itself. Observation boxes for VIPs, including one occupied by a Hutt crime lord and his entourage. I count 36 hostiles between me and Jason. How do you want me to play this? Bruce says extract and exfiltrate. No unnecessary casualties. Bruce isn't watching Jason about to get his head caved in. Nightwing's fingers found his Eskrima sticks. I'm going loud. Dick. But Nightwing was already moving. He'd spent his entire life defying gravity, turning falls into flights, transforming momentum into art. The trapeze had taught him that the secret wasn't strength, it was timing. He dropped from the support beam, 30 meters of free fall, and the crowd gasped as a figure in dark blue and black plummeted toward the arena floor. At the last possible second, Nightwing triggered his grappling line, swinging out in a wide arc that carried him over the energy barrier and directly into the Hawk Gladiator. Both boots caught the alien in the face. Physics didn't care about species. Mass times velocity equaled unconsciousness. The Hawk crashed backward, weapons scattering. Nightwing landed in a 3-point stance, Eskrima sticks electrifying with a crackle. Hey, Jason, miss me? Red Hood's helmet turned toward him, and even through the cracked visor, Nightwing could sense the mix of relief and irritation. Dick, what the hell are you doing here? Saving your reckless ass. Again. Nightwing spun his sticks, eyeing the guards rushing toward the arena floor. But first, we've got to... The energy barrier deactivated with a harsh buzz. 20 guards flooded onto the arena floor, blasters raised. The crowd's bloodlust intensified. This was better than any scripted match. Fight our way out. Nightwing finished, just like old times. Red Hood's laugh was harsh behind his helmet. Dick, we're in an alien gladiator pit in a completely different galaxy. This is nothing like old times. Then we make new traditions. Nightwing moved, and the muscle memory of fighting beside Jason Todd, back when he was Robin, before the Joker, before the Lazarus Pit, clicked into place like a key in a lock. They'd always been good together. Dick's acrobatic fluidity complementing Jason's brutal efficiency. Where Nightwing danced, Red Hood demolished. Where Dick disabled, Jason destroyed. The first guard fired. Nightwing's Eskrima stick deflected the plasma bolt, the charged surface creating just enough electromagnetic interference to alter the bolt's trajectory. It splashed against the arena wall. Nightwing closed the distance in 3 fluid strides. Stick cracking against the guard's helmet, knee to the solar plexus, disarm and move on. Red Hood fought like a street brawler who'd studied under the world's greatest martial artist, which, technically, he had. His stolen vibro blades carved through 2 guards' armor, while his boot crushed a 3rd guard's knee. No wasted movement, no mercy, just efficient, brutal combat. Jason, we're extracting, Nightwing called, blocking a stun baton with one stick while the other jabbed into an alien guard's nerve cluster. Bruce's orders. Since when do I follow Bruce's orders? Red Hood shot back, but he was already moving toward Nightwing's position, covering the retreat with stolen blaster fire. Besides, I was winning. You were about to become alien pulp. Minor detail. A blaster bolt seared past Nightwing's head, too close. He tracked the trajectory back to the VIP boxes, where a Rhodian in expensive clothing held a custom rifle. The shot hadn't been wild. Someone in the crowd was trying to kill them specifically. Oracle, We've got focused fire from the upper levels. Can you—" "Already on it," Barbara's voice came back. "Tim's slicing into their targeting systems now. You should have clear—" The lights died. For 3 seconds, the arena plunged into absolute darkness. In that darkness, Nightwing and Red Hood moved with practiced efficiency. They'd trained for this scenario 1,000 times in the Batcave. Back-to-back positioning, minimal sound, wait for the advantage. When the emergency lighting kicked in, dim red illumination casting everything in blood-toned shadows, Nightwing and Red Hood were no longer on the arena floor. They'd grappled to the support beams, vanishing into the infrastructure like smoke. The guards fired wildly into empty space. The crowd's enthusiasm turned to confusion, then anger. Where had the fighters gone? "This way," Nightwing whispered, leading Jason through the maze of ventilation shafts and maintenance tunnels that riddled Nar Shaddaa's architecture. Behind them, the arena descended into chaos as guards searched for escaped combatants and the Hutt crime lord bellowed for heads to roll. 3 minutes later, they emerged onto a rooftop 5 blocks from the pit of despair. Nightwing's comm crackled. "Extraction successful," Oracle confirmed. "Nice work, both of you. Now get to the rendezvous before—" "Wait. Dick, I'm picking up chatter on Imperial frequencies. Something about an unidentified Force user attacking a slave auction in the Duras sector." Nightwing and Red Hood exchanged glances. "Bruce?" they said simultaneously. "He's fine," Oracle assured them. "Already en route to the rendezvous, but the Empire's mobilizing. I'm seeing garrison alerts across 3 sectors. Whatever Bruce did, it got their attention." Red Hood checked his appropriated weapons: 2 blaster pistols, a vibro blade, and a thermal detonator he'd palmed from a guard. "Good. About time someone scared these bastards." "Jason," Nightwing started. "Don't." Red Hood's voice carried an edge sharper than his blades. "I spent 47 minutes fighting for my life, while aliens bet on whether I'd live or die. I watched 3 sentients get killed for entertainment. This place, this whole moon, it's Gotham's worst nightmare on a galactic scale. Slavery, gladiator pits, crime lords running entire sectors while some fascist empire pretends to maintain order." He turned to Nightwing, and even through the helmet, his intensity was palpable. "So, yeah, I'm glad Bruce is rattling cages. Maybe it's time this galaxy learned what happens when you cross the Bat family." Nightwing wanted to argue, to remind Jason about proportional response and not starting intergalactic incidents. But he'd seen the arena. He'd seen the collars on those slaves. He'd watched beings die for sport. "We do it smart," Nightwing said finally. "We work together. No lone wolf operations." "Since when?" "Since we're stuck in an alien galaxy with no backup and no way home." Nightwing's voice softened. "Look, I know we've had our differences. I know you and Bruce don't see eye to eye on the killing thing. But right now, we need to be a family. Can you do that?" Red Hood was silent for a long moment. Then, "For now. But Dick, if this galaxy operates on different rules, we'll figure it out together." Nightwing extended his hand. "Deal?" Red Hood clasped it. "Deal. Now let's get to this rendezvous before Bruce starts the apocalypse without us." They grappled across Nar Shaddaa's rooftops, 2 shadows moving through an alien city, leaving whispers and confusion in their wake. Behind them, the Pit of Despair's proprietors discovered that their security footage showed only glitches and static. Red Robin's work, no doubt, covering their tracks. The rendezvous point was the abandoned warehouse in the industrial sector, chosen by Oracle for its minimal surveillance and multiple exit routes. When Nightwing and Red Hood arrived, Batman was already there. His cape spread as he studied a holographic projection, local star charts, courtesy of Red Robin's hacking. Jason. Dick. Batman's acknowledgement was curt. Injuries? Bruised ribs, nothing serious. Red Hood reported. I'm good, Nightwing added. Oracle, status on Robin and Alfred? Barbara Gordon's voice came through clearly now. She'd established a stronger comm network. Alfred's with me in the Batwing wreckage. We've converted it into a temporary base. Most systems are operational, and Alfred's already treating it like the cave, organizing equipment, setting up medical supplies, the works. But Bruce, we have a problem. Robin, Batman said flatly. He's in the Mandalorian quarter, 20 kilometers spinward, and he's not alone. The holographic display shifted, showing grainy surveillance footage. Damian Wayne, Robin, the demon's heir, trained by assassins and Batman himself, stood in what appeared to be a combat training yard. Surrounding him were armored warriors in distinctive gear, watching with what could only be described as professional interest. Mandalorians. Red Robin's voice joined the conversation. He emerged from the shadows, his suit torn but his expression sharp. Warrior culture. They've got some kind of creed or code. From what I've pieced together from the local networks, they respect combat prowess above everything else. And Damian just fought 3 of them to a standstill. Define standstill, Batman said. Tim pulled up another video clip. Damian, armed only with his sword, moving like lethal poetry against 3 armored Mandalorians. His technique was flawless, a blend of League of Assassins efficiency and Bat family precision. The Mandalorians fought well, but Damian fought better. The match ended with all 3 warriors on their backs and Damian holding his blade at the throat of the largest one. Then, impossibly, the Mandalorians stood and removed their helmets, nodding with what looked like respect. They think he's force-sensitive, Oracle explained. The way he moves, his combat instincts, they're interpreting it as force enhancement. One of them, a clan leader named Gar Saxon, offered Damian a place in their ranks. Red Hood laughed darkly. Of course he did. Leave it to the demon brat to get adopted by alien warriors 5 minutes after arriving. It's actually been 3 hours, Tim corrected. But the point stands. Damian's integrated faster than any of us. He's learning their language, studying their culture, and here's the concerning part. I think he's actually considering their offer. Batman's expression didn't change, but Nightwing knew that look. Bruce was calculating, weighing options, running scenarios. Can we extract him? Nightwing asked. Physically, yes, Tim said. Diplomatically, that's more complicated. The Mandalorians are independent of the Empire. They have their own code, their own honor system. If we just grab Damian, we insult them. And from what I'm reading, insulted Mandalorians become lifelong enemies. Then we don't insult them, Batman decided. We approach diplomatically. Nightwing, you're with me. Jason, Tim, stay here with Oracle. Map the city's infrastructure. Find us resources, safe houses, and escape routes. We're going to need all of them. And if the Mandalorians decide they don't like you? Red Hood asked. Batman's smile was thin and humorless. Then we'll teach them why that's a mistake. As Batman and Nightwing prepared to leave, Red Robin pulled up additional data streams. Bruce, there's something else you should know. The Empire's issued a sector-wide alert. They're calling you an unidentified Force user. There's already a bounty, 50,000 credits, dead or alive. Only 50,000? Red Hood scoffed. Amateur numbers. For now, Oracle warned. But every bounty hunter, mercenary, and Imperial agent on this moon knows you're here. You've kicked the hornet's nest. The question is, what happens when it kicks back? Batman's cape swirled as he moved toward the exit. We make them regret it. Outside, Nar Shaddaa's neon-drenched darkness pulsed with life. Criminal life, desperate life, but life nonetheless. The Bat family had arrived in this galaxy as scattered individuals. Now they were beginning to operate as a unit. And the galaxy, empire, huts, criminals, and all, was about to learn what that meant. The Mandalorian Quarter occupied a fortified district in Nar Shaddaa's mid-levels, where ancient warrior traditions collided with the moon's criminal chaos. Unlike the rust-eaten structures surrounding it, this territory gleamed with purpose. Clean lines, efficient architecture, and an atmosphere of disciplined violence. Guards in distinctive armor patrolled the perimeter, their weapons carried with the casual competence of those who'd used them often. Batman and Nightwing observed from a rooftop 300 meters out, studying the approach vectors. Frontal assaults out, Nightwing noted. Those guards are actually paying attention, unlike the Stormtroopers. Professional military bearing. They'll spot us before we get within 50 meters. We're not assaulting. Batman lowered his electro-binoculars. We're negotiating. Bruce, we're dressed like creatures from a horror holovid. How exactly do you plan to negotiate? Batman's answer was simple. Honestly. They approached from street level, making no attempt at stealth. The guards noticed them immediately. Two figures in dark armor walking directly toward a secured checkpoint. Blaster rifles tracked their movement, and Batman heard the distinctive hum of weapons powering up. Hold! The command came in Mandoa, a language Batman's cowl translated instantly. The lead guard, a woman with distinctive red markings on her helmet, raised one hand. This is Mandalorian territory. State your business or leave. Batman stopped 10 meters from the checkpoint, hands visible and unthreatening. I'm here for the boy who fought 3 of your warriors. He's with me. The guard's helmet tilted, studying him. The foundling challenged our fighters and earned his place. By what right do you claim him? By the right of family. Batman's voice carried absolute certainty. His name is Damian. He's my son. A ripple of surprise passed through the guards. Subtle, but Batman caught it. Family meant something to these warriors. Wait here. The guard spoke into her helmet's comm, her posture relaxing fractionally. After 30 seconds, she nodded. Gar Saxon will see you, but your weapons stay powered down, or this conversation ends with blaster fire. Understood. They were escorted into the compound, a journey that revealed much about Mandalorian culture. Training yards where warriors sparred with vicious efficiency. Weapon forges where armor was crafted and maintained with ritualistic care. Children, foundlings, the cowl's translation identified, practicing combat forms under the watchful eyes of instructors. It reminded Batman uncomfortably of the League of Assassins. The same emphasis on martial excellence, the same disciplined brutality. But where the League operated through fear and mysticism, the Mandalorians seemed bound by honor and tradition. The audience chamber was sparse, no decorations, no ostentation, just a circular room with excellent sight lines and strategic positioning. A man stood at its center, his armor painted in gray and red, his stance radiating controlled violence. Gar Saxon, clan leader. And beside him, looking simultaneously defiant and curious, stood Damian Wayne. Father? Damian's greeting was carefully neutral. And Grayson, I should have known you'd track me down. Damian. Batman's voice carried no reproach, only acknowledgement. Are you injured? Barely a scratch. Damian's hand rested on his sword hilt, a defensive posture Batman recognized. These warriors fight well, but they lack true lethality. They're too concerned with honor. Gar Saxon's laugh was sharp. The foundling has spirit. In 3 hours, he's learned more about our ways than most outsiders learn in years. He fights like a Mandalorian, though he claims no allegiance to our creed. The clan leader's helmet turned toward Batman. And you, the one they're calling the Shadow of Nar Shaddaa. The Empire believes you're a rogue Force user. But standing before me now, I sense no Force presence. What are you? A vigilante, Batman answered truthfully. From a place very far from here. My family and I were brought to this galaxy against our will. We're trying to survive while finding a way home. Your family. Saxon gestured to Nightwing. This one is also yours? My first student. My son, in all ways that matter. Saxon was silent for a long moment, his helmet betraying nothing. Then, you speak of family with the weight of the Mando'ad, those who follow the way. This is good. Family is strength. But your foundling, he indicated Damian. He has earned a place among us through combat. By our traditions, he may choose to walk our path. He's 13 years old, Batman said flatly. Old enough to fight. Old enough to choose. Saxon's tone carried challenge. Or do you not trust your foundling to make his own decisions? Damian's eyes flicked between Batman and Saxon, calculating. Batman recognized that expression. Damian was testing boundaries, seeing how far his independence would stretch. Damian, Batman said quietly, what do you want? The question surprised everyone, including Damian. The boy's hand dropped from his sword, his defensive posture easing slightly. I want... Damian started, then stopped. When he continued, his voice carried uncharacteristic uncertainty. Father, in the 3 hours I've been here, I've learned more about this galaxy than Oracle's data could provide. These warriors, the Mandalorians, they understand combat in ways that transcend simple fighting. They have codes, traditions, and honor that the League of Assassins only pretended to possess. They also kill for credits. Nightwing interjected. I've seen the bounty postings, Damian. Mandalorians work as mercenaries across the galaxy. As do I when necessary. Damian shot back. The difference is they're honest about it. They don't pretend to be heroes while breaking necks in the shadows. The barb was aimed at Batman's no-kill rule, an old argument, one they'd had countless times. But here, in an alien galaxy where the rules were unclear, it carried new weight. Gar Saxon. Batman turned his attention to the clan leader. What exactly are you offering my son? Training in the Mandalorian arts, understanding of this galaxy's true nature, a place among warriors who would fight beside him, not simply command him. Saxon's helmet tilted. And perhaps, in time, armor of his own. Beskar, the metal of our people. Stronger than Durasteel, resistant to lightsaber strikes. A warrior like your foundling deserves proper protection. Batman's tactical mind evaluated the offer. Damian, embedded with the Mandalorians, could provide intelligence, resources, and potential allies. But it also meant exposure to a culture that valued lethal force, something Damian already leaned toward. The risk of the boy fully embracing that philosophy was significant. I need to speak with my son, Batman said. Privately. Saxon gestured to a side chamber. You have 5 minutes. The room was small, designed for equipment storage. Batman, Nightwing and Damian stood in a triangle, the weight of decisions pressing down. "Before you start the lecture," Damian began. "No lecture." Batman cut him off. "I want your honest assessment. Do you trust these warriors?" Damian blinked, thrown off balance by the direct question. "I believe they follow their code. Gar Saxon challenged me fairly. When I bested his warriors, he offered respect instead of resentment. That's more than the League ever provided. They're mercenaries," Nightwing pointed out. "They fight for whoever pays them. What happens when the Empire offers them credits to turn us in? Then they refuse." Damian's certainty was absolute. Mandalorians don't break contracts. Once they give their word, they honor it. It's literally their most sacred tradition. Saxon told me about warriors who died rather than betray their agreements. Batman studied his son, really studied him. Damian had been trained by assassins, raised by a grandfather who saw people as tools, and brought into Batman's world with all its contradictions and compromises. The boy was brilliant, lethal, and desperately seeking a place where his skills mattered without constant moral judgment. "If you stay with them," Batman said slowly, "you'll be exposed to situations where killing is expected, where the Mandalorian way conflicts with our code. I know. And you'll have to make choices I can't make for you." "I know that too." Batman placed a hand on Damian's shoulder. "Then here's my condition. You stay in contact. Oracle establishes a secure comm link. If you're in danger, if the situation becomes untenable, you call us immediately. And Damian," his voice hardened, "if you choose to kill while with the Mandalorians, you own that choice. No blaming their culture, no excusing it as necessity. You decide who you want to be." Damian met his father's eyes, and something passed between them. Understanding, perhaps, or at least acknowledgement of the stakes. "I can live with that. Then we have a deal." Batman released his son's shoulder and turned to Nightwing. "Dick?" Nightwing sighed. "I think this is a terrible idea. But I also think Damian's right about one thing. We need allies in this galaxy. If the Mandalorians can provide that..." He looked at Damian. "Don't make us regret this, kid. When have I ever made poor decisions?" Damian's smirk was pure Wayne arrogance. "Do you want the list chronologically or by severity?" Nightwing shot back. They returned to the main chamber, where Gar Saxon waited with the patience of a predator. "We've decided," Batman announced. "Damian will train with your people, learn your ways, and earn his place through merit. But he remains part of my family. If you betray him, if you endanger him, if you use him for purposes that conflict with our code, you'll answer to me." Saxon's helmet tilted. "You threaten a Mandalorian clan leader in his own stronghold. Bold. Stupid, but bold." He paused. "I accept your terms. The foundling trains with us. But his loyalty to family is respected. In our culture, family bonds supersede clan obligations. It is the way." He extended his hand. Not a handshake, but a forearm clasp. Batman reciprocated, feeling the strength in Saxon's grip. "One more thing," Saxon added. "The Empire hunts you. The Hutts want revenge. Every bounty hunter on this moon is searching for the shadow. If your family needs resources, weapons, or safe passage, the Mandalorians remember debts. Your foundling's combat prowess has earned you that much consideration." "Appreciated," Batman said. "But we don't need charity." "It's not charity, it's business." Saxon's tone carried amusement. "You've disrupted slave markets, humiliated Imperial inquisitors, and become the most talked about mystery on Nar Shaddaa in 5 years. That kind of chaos creates opportunities. The Mandalorians are pragmatic. We profit from instability. Then we have mutual interests. Indeed. Saxon turned to Damian. Foundling, your training begins at dawn. Report to the Western Yard. Bring that sword. I want to see if you can adapt our Beskad techniques. Damian nodded, his expression eager despite his attempts at stoicism. I won't disappoint. See that you don't. As Batman and Nightwing prepared to leave, Damian pulled his father aside one final time. Father, thank you for trusting me. Batman's expression softened fractionally. I'll always trust you to do what you think is right, Damian. I just hope you'll trust yourself to know what that is. They left the Mandalorian quarter under the watchful eyes of armored warriors, their alliance forged not through force powers or galactic politics, but through the oldest currency in the universe, family and honor. That went better than expected, Nightwing observed as they grappled back toward Oracle's coordinates. For now. Batman's voice carried caution. But Damian's walking a dangerous line. If he fully adopts their philosophy, then we deal with it when it happens. Right now, we've got bigger problems. Nightwing gestured toward the city below, where Imperial patrols had doubled. The Empire's not going to forget about you. And that Inquisitor, seventh sister, she seemed personally offended. Good. Batman's smile was razor thin. Angry enemies make mistakes. They returned to Oracle's makeshift base, the crashed Batwing, now transformed through Alfred's organizational genius into something resembling functionality. The butler had somehow procured local materials and begun repairs, his unflappable demeanor unchanged despite their interdimensional displacement. Master Bruce. Alfred's greeting carried dry humor. I trust you successfully retrieved Master Damian without starting an intergalactic war. He's staying with the Mandalorians, voluntarily. Alfred raised an eyebrow. How unprecedented and concerning. We'll monitor the situation. Batman turned to Oracle and Red Robin, both hunched over holographic displays. Status? Tim looked up, his expression grim. Bruce, we've got a problem. That Inquisitor you fought? She reported you to someone called Grand Admiral Thrawn, apparently the Empire's top strategic mind. He's requested your capture personally, wants to study your anomalous combat patterns. Let him try. There's more. Oracle pulled up surveillance footage. The slave auction you disrupted. The Hutt cartel is furious. They've put out a contract, 200,000 credits for your head. Every bounty hunter in 3 sectors is converging on Nar Shaddaa. Red Hood, cleaning his appropriated blaster, laughed darkly. So we've got the Empire, the Hutts, and independent contractors all hunting us. Sounds like a Tuesday in Gotham. Except we don't have the cave, the resources, or backup. Nightwing countered. We're operating on borrowed time and stolen equipment. Then we adapt. Batman's voice carried absolute certainty. We've been in worse situations. Name one. Tim challenged. Batman's smile was grim. Darkseid's invasion, Brainiac's assault on Earth, the Court of Owls. Every time Gotham's tried to kill us. He looked at each member of his family in turn. We survive because we're smarter, faster, and more determined than our enemies. That doesn't change because we're in a different galaxy. Inspiring speech, Master Bruce, Alfred observed. But perhaps we should focus on practical matters, such as finding a more permanent base of operations, acquiring local currency, and determining if this galaxy possesses anything resembling coffee. Alfred's right, Oracle said. We need to establish ourselves properly. That means resources, intelligence networks, and cover identities. Tim and I can handle the digital infrastructure, but we need physical assets. I'll handle that. Red Hood stood, checking his weapons. There's a black market in the industrial sector. If I can't buy what we need, I'll steal it. Jason, Batman started. Relax, Bruce. I'll play nice. Mostly. Red Hood headed for the exit, pausing at the door. Besides, someone's got to teach this galaxy what happens when you mess with the Bat family. Might as well be me. He vanished into Nar Shaddaa's darkness, leaving the others to their planning. Oracle pulled up a galactic map, highlighting sectors and trade routes. If we're going to survive here, we need to understand the bigger picture. The Empire controls the core worlds, but the Outer Rim, where we are, operates on looser rules. Crime syndicates, independent systems, and groups like the Mandalorians fill the power vacuum. And the rebels? Nightwing asked. The people fighting the Empire? Scattered cells, limited resources, outgunned and outnumbered. Tim brought up intelligence files. But they're organized, determined, and growing. Eventually, they'll want to recruit us. We're not joining a war, Batman said flatly. We might not have a choice, Oracle countered. Bruce, we've freed slaves, assaulted Imperial agents, and made enemies of the most powerful criminal organization in this sector. We're already part of this conflict, whether we want to be or not. Batman was silent, his cowl's white lenses reflecting the holographic displays. She was right, and he knew it. The moment they'd intervened, the moment he'd saved those slaves, they'd chosen a side. But that didn't mean they had to fight the Empire's war. They could fight their own. We operate independently, Batman decided. We establish a base, gather resources, and maintain our code. We help where we can, but we don't become soldiers. We're vigilantes, not revolutionaries. And when the Empire comes for us? Nightwing asked. Because they will, Bruce. You know they will. Batman's smile was cold. Then we remind them why creatures of the night are feared across the multiverse. Outside, Nar Shaddaa continued its endless cycle of crime and desperation. But in the shadows, the Bat family was taking root. They'd arrived as scattered refugees. They were becoming something far more dangerous. A legend in the making. 3 days after their arrival, Oracle had transformed the Batwing's wreckage into something approaching operational excellence. The crash site, the abandoned refinery in Nar Shaddaa's lower industrial levels, now hummed with jury-rigged technology, holographic displays, and the quiet efficiency of Barbara Gordon doing what she did best, creating order from chaos. We're calling it the Nest, she announced as Batman, Nightwing, and Red Robin gathered around her central console. Not as impressive as the cave, but it'll do until we find something better. Alfred emerged from what had been the Batwing's cargo bay, now converted into a medical station and living quarters. I've taken the liberty of establishing a proper supply inventory, Master Bruce. We have sufficient rations for approximately 2 weeks, assuming Master Jason doesn't continue eating at his current rate. Jason's not here, Nightwing observed. He's been gone since yesterday. He checked in 4 hours ago, Oracle reported, pulling up a comm log. Said he was acquiring assets in the Duras sector. Translation, he's probably robbing criminals and redistributing their wealth to us. Batman's expression remained neutral, but his silence spoke volumes. Red Hood's methods had always been a point of contention, effective but brutal, pragmatic but morally flexible. We have bigger concerns, Tim interjected. manipulating the holographic display. "I've been monitoring Imperial communications. That Grand Admiral Thrawn? He's not just interested in capturing Batman. He's analyzing everything. Our tactics, our technology, our apparent immunity to force detection. He's treating us like a strategic puzzle." "Thrawn's dangerous," Oracle agreed. "I've read his files, what little exist in accessible databases. He's not your typical Imperial officer. Where others rely on fear and overwhelming force, Thrawn uses psychology, art, and cultural analysis. He studies his enemy's art and history to predict their tactics." "Then we don't give him patterns to analyze," Batman said. "We stay unpredictable. Varied approaches, different tactics each encounter. Easier said than done when we're operating with limited resources in hostile territory," Nightwing pointed out. He gestured to the makeshift base around them. "We've got one damaged ship, whatever gear we salvaged from the crash, and Jason's stolen goods. That's not exactly the Batcave's arsenal. Which is why I've been working on solutions." Tim pulled up schematics. "The local technology is surprisingly compatible with our equipment. I've managed to interface our systems with Star Wars computer protocols. Oracle and I can now access their HoloNet. It's like their version of the internet, but galaxy-wide and heavily monitored by the Empire." "Security?" Batman asked. "Sophisticated but predictable. They rely heavily on centralized control and assumed authority. Nobody really expects hackers because the Empire executes them publicly." Tim's smile was sharp. "They're not prepared for someone who learned from Oracle." Barbara highlighted several locations on the city map. "I've identified 3 potential supply points: a defunct droid factory in the commercial sector, an abandoned rebel weapons cache in the Undercity, and a criminal warehouse in Hutt territory that's currently storing confiscated tech from Imperial raids." "The rebel cache," Nightwing said immediately. "If we're taking from anyone, it should be from people who won't miss it." "The cache is abandoned for a reason," Oracle countered. "Imperial sensors detected it 6 months ago. It's under surveillance as a trap for rebel operatives. Anyone who approaches gets flagged, tracked, and arrested within hours. Then we make them think we're not interested." Batman studied the location, a subsection of Nar Shaddaa's lower levels, buried under centuries of construction. "Tim, can you spoof Imperial sensors?" "Already working on it. Give me 3 hours and I'll make their surveillance system think that sector's empty except for native vermin." "Do it. Nightwing, you're with me. We'll scout the cache once Tim's cleared our approach." Batman turned to Oracle. "What's the status on Damian?" Barbara pulled up a live feed from a surveillance drone, one of several she'd deployed across the city using repurposed local technology. The image showed Damian in the Mandalorian training yard, sparring against 2 warriors simultaneously. His movements had evolved in just 3 days, incorporating Mandalorian techniques into his already formidable style. "He's adapting fast," Oracle reported. "Maybe too fast. Gar Saxon's impressed. He's already talking about presenting Damian to the clan as a potential member. That means armor, weapons, and full integration into their culture. And their contracts," Batman noted grimly. "The moment Damian becomes a Mandalorian, he'll be obligated to honor their agreements, some of which involve killing." The room fell silent. Everyone knew Batman's no-kill rule. Everyone also knew Damian constantly tested that boundary. "We can't control him forever, Bruce," Nightwing said quietly. "He's going to make his own choices eventually." "I know." Batman's voice carried unusual weight. "But he's still my responsibility, and I won't let him become what his grandfather wanted him to be." Alfred's gentle cough interrupted the moment. Perhaps, Master Bruce, we should focus on what we can control, such as establishing proper intelligence networks, securing reliable income sources, and determining if this galaxy has discovered T. Income's covered. Red Hood's voice crackled over the comm before his signal appeared on the nest's proximity sensors. Coming in with cargo. Prepare for delivery. 2 minutes later, Jason Todd strode into the base, his armor scorched and his helmet cracked further, but his body language radiating satisfaction. Behind him, a repulsor sled loaded with crates floated on anti-gravity technology. Christmas came early, Red Hood announced, unsealing the first crate. Inside gleamed an array of weapons, blaster pistols, rifles, thermal detonators, and something that looked disturbingly like a portable missile launcher. Batman's eyes narrowed. Jason, where did you get this? Black Sun arms dealer named Zizor's lieutenant. They were supplying weapons to slavers in the entertainment district. Red Hood pulled out a blaster rifle, checking its charge. Seemed wrong to let them keep such nice toys. You robbed a Black Sun shipment? Oracle's voice climbed an octave. Jason, the Black Sun is one of the galaxy's most powerful crime syndicates. They have reach across hundreds of systems. Had a shipment, Red Hood corrected. Now we have it. And before you start the lecture, Bruce, I made sure they knew exactly who took it. Left a little calling card, a bat symbol burned into their warehouse wall with a plasma torch. You're drawing attention to us, Batman said, his voice dangerous. I'm sending a message. Red Hood met Batman's gaze through their respective helmets. You freed slaves and humiliated an inquisitor. Dick rescued me from a gladiator pit. We're already on every bounty board in 3 sectors. Hiding isn't an option anymore. So instead, we make them afraid. We show them that the Bat family isn't prey. We're predators. Jason's not entirely wrong, Tim admitted reluctantly. I've been monitoring chatter on criminal networks. People are talking about us. The freed slaves from your auction raid? They're spreading stories. The shadow who fears nothing. The blue dancer who moves like smoke. The red warrior who fights like death itself. We're becoming myths. Myths get hunted, Nightwing argued, especially by people with resources to match their ambition. Then we hunt back. Red Hood began distributing weapons. Look, I know this isn't how we operated in Gotham, but Gotham had rules, structure, and Gordon to keep things from spiraling completely out of control. This galaxy? It's authoritarian nightmare fuel wrapped in criminal chaos. The Empire oppresses, the criminals exploit, and normal people suffer. If we're stuck here, we might as well do what we do best. Make the bad guys scared of the dark. Batman took one of the blaster rifles, examining it with professional interest. The weapon was well maintained, military grade, and significantly more powerful than the pistols they'd appropriated earlier. These weapons kill, Jason. Yes, they do. Red Hood's tone carried no apology. And if someone shoots at us with lethal intent, I'm shooting back. I'm not dying in an alien galaxy because of a moral code that doesn't account for plasma bolts and lightsabers. The tension crackled between them. The old argument, the fundamental divide that had separated Batman and Red Hood since Jason's resurrection. Master Bruce, Master Jason. Alfred's voice cut through the building conflict. Might I suggest a compromise? We accept Master Jason's acquired assets for defensive purposes, while maintaining our commitment to non-lethal solutions where possible. Surely even in this galaxy, there are settings between chat politely and obliterate entirely. Red Hood actually laughed. Alfred, You're the only one who can make armed robbery sound reasonable." He adjusted one of the blasters. "And yeah, these have stun settings. Not every fight has to be lethal, but I'm keeping lethal as an option." Batman holstered the blaster rifle. "We use them defensively. Stun settings default. Lethal force only as absolute last resort." "I can work with that." "Good. Because we've got incoming." Oracle's voice turned sharp as her sensors lit up with proximity alerts. 300 meters and closing. 6 contacts, heavily armed, moving in coordinated tactical formation. IFF signals identify them as... Oh, hell. "What?" Nightwing demanded. "Bounty hunters, and not low-level thugs. These are registered guild members. Their leader's transponder identifies him as Cad Bane, one of the most successful hunters in the galaxy. 57 confirmed captures. Never failed a contract." Batman moved immediately, his cape spreading as he assessed defensive positions. "Everyone, combat ready. Tim, cut the external lights. Oracle, loop our heat signatures. Make us look like background radiation. Dick, Jason, flanking positions on the entrance." The nest plunged into tactical darkness, illuminated only by the soft glow of holographic displays. Outside, footsteps approached. Careful, professional, the movement of trained killers. "They found us faster than expected," Tim whispered. "The Black Sun probably reported Jason's raid," Oracle replied. "Bounty hunters monitor criminal networks for leads." The entrance hatch remained sealed, but Batman could hear movement outside. Scanning equipment, thermal readings, someone competent performing reconnaissance before assault. Then, a voice, filtered through a breathing apparatus, carrying an accent Batman's cowl identified as Duros, called out, "I know you're in there, Shadow. My sensors read 6 life signs. You're outgunned, outnumbered, and surrounded. Surrender now, and I'll take you alive. Resist, and I collect your corpse. Either way, I get paid." Red Hood checked his blaster's charge. "I vote we show him why that's a bad idea." "Wait." Batman held up a hand. "Oracle, can you identify the other 5 hunters?" "Running recognition. Got 3 of them. Embo, Cuso species, dual bowcaster specialist. Sugi, also Cuso, twin blaster pistols. And Aura Singh, human female. Former Jedi Padawan turned assassin, extremely dangerous." Oracle's voice tightened. "Bruce, these aren't amateurs. They're some of the best in the galaxy. Then we negotiate." Batman moved toward the sealed entrance, ignoring the protests from his team. He triggered the external speaker. "Cad Bane, I'm unarmed and coming out to talk. If you shoot me, you get nothing. If you listen, everyone profits." Silence. Then, "You've got 30 seconds. Make it good." Batman cycled the hatch, stepping into Nar Shaddaa's perpetual twilight with his hands visible and empty. 6 figures stood in tactical formation around the entrance. Cad Bane in distinctive blue armor and wide-brimmed hat, flanked by 5 equally dangerous-looking bounty hunters. Bane's reptilian features twisted into something approximating amusement. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Which is it, Shadow?" "Neither. I'm practical." Batman's voice carried across the space between them. "You're here for the bounty, 200,000 credits from the Hutts. But that bounty only pays if you deliver me alive to face justice for disrupting their slave trade. I'm aware of the terms. Then you're also aware that delivering me will take time, resources, and significant risk. The Empire wants me too. If Imperial forces intercept you during transport, you lose the bounty and gain powerful enemies." Batman let that sink in, I'm offering an alternative. Bane's hand rested on his blaster pistol. I'm listening. You leave us alone. In exchange, I provide you with something worth more than 200,000 credits. Information about Imperial operations on Nar Shaddaa, including a secret facility holding confiscated weapons and technology. Enough to arm a small army, all yours for the taking. And why would you know about Imperial facilities? Aura Singh called out, her voice sharp with suspicion. Because I've already infiltrated 3 of them. Batman's statement was met with stunned silence. I know their security protocols, their patrol patterns, and their structural vulnerabilities. That information could make you very wealthy. Or you can try to collect one bounty and fight me and my team in the process. Bane studied him for a long moment. You're confident. I'll give you that. But what stops me from taking the information and collecting the bounty? The fact that if you try, you won't leave this sector alive. The voice came from above. Nightwing perched on the refinery's upper structure, Eskrima sticks crackling with electricity. Red Hood emerged from the opposite side, blaster rifle aimed with casual precision. And I've already uploaded a data packet to the Hunters Guild network. Oracle's voice transmitted to Bane's communicator. If anything happens to us, every hunter in the galaxy learns that Cad Bane betrays his word. Your reputation would be worthless. Bane's expression remained unreadable, but his stance shifted fractionally. You plan this. I plan everything, Batman said simply. So here's my offer. You walk away with valuable intel and your reputation intact. Or you fight, possibly win, but definitely lose more than you'd gain. Your choice. The bounty hunter leader was silent for 10 long seconds, an eternity in a standoff. Then, incredibly, he holstered his weapon. I'm a businessman, not a fool. Send me the data on that Imperial facility. If it checks out, we've got a deal. Bane's synthetic eyes narrowed. But Shadow, this only works once. Next time we meet, I'll collect that bounty. I'd expect nothing less. The bounty hunters withdrew in professional formation, weapons ready but not aimed. Within minutes, they'd vanished into Nar Shaddaa's urban maze. Red Hood lowered his rifle. Did we just negotiate with bounty hunters? We used leverage and intelligence to avoid unnecessary conflict, Batman corrected. It's called strategy. I call it insane, Nightwing muttered. But it worked, so I'll shut up. Oracle's voice held grudging admiration. Bruce, that was either brilliant or suicidal. The data you promised them is real. Tim found it while mapping Imperial networks. They'll raid the facility, weaken Imperial operations, and leave us alone. Everyone profits. Except the Empire, Tim noted. Yes, except them. As they secured the nest's entrance and resumed operations, Batman allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They'd been in this galaxy for 3 days. They'd made enemies, yes. But they'd also made a reputation. The Bat family was no longer just surviving. They were becoming a force this galaxy would have to reckon with. And they were just getting started. The tension bled from the nest slowly, replaced by a focused, humming energy. The encounter with Cad Bane hadn't been a victory so much as a strategic standoff, but it proved a crucial point. Even in this galaxy, fear and reputation were currencies the Bat family could mint. Yet, as Oracle noted with cool detachment while monitoring Imperial frequencies, they had traded one hunter for a far more dangerous one. Grand Admiral Thrawn has taken personal command of the search, she announced, her face illuminated by scrolling lines of code and tactical reports. A hologram of the Chiss officer, blue-skinned, red-eyed, unnervingly calm. rotated above the console. He's pulled Seventh Sister off the hunt and reassigned her to another sector. This isn't about capturing a rogue Force user anymore. This is an intellectual exercise for him. Red Hood leaned against a crate of his stolen weapons. So, the scary blue guy is bored, and we're his new puzzle box. Great. It's worse than that, Tim interjected, his fingers flying across a keyboard adapted to interface with local tech. He's not just reviewing combat reports. He's analyzing everything. The pattern of the freed slaves' dispersal, the specific types of equipment we've stolen, the way we disabled the slave collars. He's building a psychological profile from our actions. Batman stood before the main display, arms crossed, his cowl's lenses reflecting the data streams. Then, we give him false patterns. We act against our own instincts. Easier said than done, Nightwing said, checking the charge on his newly acquired blaster pistol. Our instincts are what keep us alive. Thrawn predicts through art and culture, Oracle said, pulling up examples of the Admiral's past campaigns. He studies a species' creative output to understand their strategic mindset. But we have no art here, no cultural context for him to analyze. We're an anomaly. That's our only advantage, and he knows it. He'll try to force us to create patterns he can dissect. The comlink chirped. A secure, encrypted frequency Oracle had established for Damian. The boy's voice came through, slightly breathless, but controlled. Father, I have a situation. Report? A Mandalorian patrol intercepted an Imperial convoy in the Kessel sector. They captured intelligence packets intended for the local Moff. Gar Saxon is displeased with the contents. There was a rustle of movement, the sound of a door sealing. Damian's voice dropped. The packets contained detailed files on us, surveillance photos, tactical assessments, and a standing order from Thrawn himself. Capture for study, terminate if resistance proves excessive. They've identified all of us as a collective, though they're using the label Phantom Cell. Batman's jaw tightened. How did the Mandalorians get these files? They were raiding the convoy for weapons. The data was a secondary prize. Saxon views it as a gift, information on a potential rival. Damian paused. He's summoned you. A conclave. He wants to discuss alignment. The word hung in the air. Alignment, alliance. The very thing Batman had sought to avoid. He can't be serious, Nightwing muttered. After 3 days? Saxon is a pragmatist, Damian replied, his tone taking on a lecturing quality he'd undoubtedly picked up from the Mandalorians. He sees a skilled, independent cell causing significant disruption to both the Empire and the criminal syndicates. He calculates that an association could be beneficial, either as allies or as a subcontractor force. He's offering a formal audience in 2 hours. We don't need him, Red Hood stated flatly. We might, Tim countered. Thrawn is the real threat. If he's dedicating resources to finding us, we'll need more than this rust bucket hideout and stolen blasters. The Mandalorians have ships, secure bases across the galaxy, and intelligence networks that don't rely on slicing Imperial databanks. And they have contracts that involve murder, Batman said, his voice a low growl. Which we can refuse, Damian said quickly, too quickly. The Creed allows for choice in contracts. We could negotiate terms. The silence stretched. Batman looked at each of his family. Nightwing's conflicted expression, Red Hood's defiant glare, Tim's analytical frown, Oracle's worried eyes, Alfred's steady, waiting presence. We go, Batman decided. We hear his offer. We make no promises. This is reconnaissance, not negotiation. Understood? 2 hours later, Batman and Nightwing stood once more in the Mandalorian quarters audience chamber. The atmosphere was different this time. Less curiosity, more calculated appraisal. Gar Saxon was not alone. 5 other clan leaders, their armor marked with different sigils and colors, stood in a semicircle. Damian, still in his Robin uniform but standing with a new, confident poise, was positioned slightly apart, near Saxon's right hand. "Batman," Saxon greeted, dispensing with formalities. "Your foundling has proven his worth. He fights with the heart of a true Mandoad. He has also shared concerning intelligence." He gestured, and a hologram sprang to life between them, displaying the stolen Imperial files. There were clear images of Batman on the rooftop, Nightwing in the arena, even grainy shots of Red Hood during his weapons raid. "The Empire names you Phantoms," one of the other leaders, a woman with green armor, said. "They fear what they do not understand. This is a weakness." "It is also an opportunity," Saxon continued. "The Empire's attention is a burden, but it can be a weapon. They are stretched thin. Rebel cells sparking across the outer rim, pirate fleets growing bold, and now you. A distraction they cannot ignore." "What are you proposing?" Batman asked, his voice neutral. "A contract, not for credits, but for mutual benefit." Saxon leaned forward. "You continue your operations against Imperial interests and the Hutt cartel. You do it loudly. We provide you with intelligence, safe passage, and materials. In return, you create chaos in sectors where we wish to expand our influence. You draw Imperial forces away from our holdings. You become the specter in the night, and we become the unseen hand that guides the galaxy." Nightwing shot Batman a look. It was exactly what they feared, becoming soldiers in someone else's war, just with a different flag. "And when your expansion requires the elimination of innocent civilians, or the suppression of a planet's freedom?" Batman's question cut through the room. Saxon's helmet tilted. "We are not the Empire. We conquer, yes. But we rule through strength and honor, not terror and bureaucracy. The people we bring into our fold gain protection, order, and a place in the warrior creed. It is a better life than what the Empire or the Hutts offer." "It's still subjugation," Nightwing said quietly. "It is the way of the galaxy," the green-armored woman retorted. "The strong rule. The weak serve or perish. Your philosophy of protecting the helpless is admirable, but it is not scalable to a galactic scale. You cannot be the shadow in every corner." "That's where you're wrong." Batman's voice dropped, becoming the thing that made Gotham's criminals freeze. "We don't protect every corner. We make an example of the ones we can reach. And we teach the rest to fear the darkness we represent." A ripple of approval, grudging and sharp, went through some of the Mandalorians. They respected conviction even if they disagreed with it. "Then, we are at an impasse," Saxon said, not sounding disappointed. "You will not fight our wars. We will not fight yours. But there is a middle ground. Information. We will trade intelligence, Imperial movements for criminal activities, rebel safe houses for smuggling routes. A business relationship. No contracts, no obligations. Just professionals sharing market insights." It was a more palatable offer. Cleaner. It played to Batman's strengths. Information was always his greatest weapon. "Agreed," Batman said after a moment. "But Damian returns with us." Saxon went still. Damian stiffened. "The foundling has chosen to walk the path," Saxon stated, his voice losing its businesslike tone. "By our traditions, he has the right He is 13. Batman interrupted, the words final and absolute. He is my son. He is not a foundling. He is not a warrior of your creed. He comes home. The tension in the room spiked. Hands drifted toward weapons. Damian looked between his father and Saxon, conflict written in every line of his body. "Father," Damian said, his voice steady but strained. "I am learning. I am becoming stronger here. I can be an intermediary, a liaison." "You can do that from the nest," Batman said, his gaze never leaving Saxon. "The answer is no." For a long moment, Saxon said nothing. Then, he let out a short, sharp laugh. "You have steel in your spine, Batman. I respect that. The boy returns to you. But the offer for him remains open, should he choose to seek it when he is of age." He looked at Damian. "Remember your training, Adika? And remember that honor sometimes means choosing your clan." The dismissal was clear. As Batman and Nightwing turned to leave, Damian falling into step beside them, Saxon's voice stopped them at the door. "A piece of information for our new business arrangement. Grand Admiral Thrawn is not on Nar Shaddaa. He never was. He's aboard the Chimaera in orbit. He's been watching this entire time. The bounty hunters, the Imperial raids, even this meeting. He's gathering data. And he has a new tool, a captured rebel slicer who's been forced to develop predictive algorithms. Thrawn isn't just studying art. He's building a program to predict your next move." The words landed like a physical blow. Thrawn was several steps ahead, using their very actions as data points. "Thank you," Batman said, and meant it. As they left the fortified quarter, Nightwing let out a low breath. "Well, that could have gone worse." "It still might," Damian said, looking back at the compound with something akin to longing. "Saxon respects you now, Father, but he also sees you as a potential rival. He will help us only as long as it hurts his enemies more than it helps us." "I know." Batman placed a hand on Damian's shoulder. "Welcome back." Their return to the nest was met with relief, but it was short-lived. Oracle's face was pale on the main screen. "Thrawn's move is already happening," she said, her voice tight. "He didn't try to predict where we'd strike next. He predicted where we'd hide." On the display, a map of Nar Shaddaa's industrial sector lit up. 6 points glowed red, forming a tightening perimeter around their location. Imperial patrols moving with uncharacteristic precision and stealth. "He's flushing us out," Tim said, horror dawning. "He's not surrounding us to attack. He's herding us, forcing us to move in a direction he chooses." "Then we don't move," Red Hood growled, hefting his rifle. "We dig in and fight." "And die," Batman stated. "Thrawn would have accounted for that. This is a trap with multiple layers. Fighting is what he wants. It gives him more combat data." He studied the map, his mind racing. The patrols were closing from all sides, except one. A narrow, toxic coolant runoff channel that led deep into Nar Shaddaa's uninhabited substructure. "The channel," Batman said. "It's the only gap." "It's also obviously a trap," Nightwing argued. "He's leaving us one way out because he wants us to take it." "Exactly." Batman turned to the family, his plan crystallizing. "So we give him exactly what he expects, and then we break the pattern he's so carefully constructing." He began issuing orders, rapid and precise. "Oracle, you and Alfred prep the Batwing for emergency lift. It won't fly, but its engines can create a diversion. Tim, I need you to hack the industrial sector's atmospheric processors on my mark, create a smog bank thick enough to blind sensors. Jason, Dick, you're on demolition. Set charges on these 3 support columns. He pointed to locations on the schematic. Not to collapse them, just to make it sound like we're making a stand. And what are you doing? Red Hood asked. Batman's smile was invisible under the cowl, but it was in his voice. I'm taking a walk through Thrawn's front door. While the family scrambled to their tasks, Batman slipped out of the nest through a hidden runoff pipe, emerging into the chemical-tainted fog that perpetually clung to the lower levels. He moved not away from the approaching Imperials, but toward one of the flanking patrols. He needed a uniform. The patrol was a standard 5-trooper squad, moving cautiously but confidently. Thrawn had them well drilled. Batman dropped behind them, silent as a ghost. The rearmost trooper fell to a precise nerve strike before he could make a sound. Batman dragged him into the shadows, securing him and stripping him of his armor with practiced efficiency. 2 minutes later, a lone stormtrooper broke from the patrol pattern, moving purposefully against the flow of the tightening encirclement. Batman's knowledge of Imperial procedures, gleaned from Oracle's data dumps, let him mimic the awkward gait and radio procedures perfectly. He walked directly toward the command post Thrawn would have established at the center of the net. He found it a quarter-mile away, a makeshift comms hub set up in a refurbished maintenance lift, with a lieutenant coordinating movements. Batman approached, his stolen blaster held casually. "Trooper, return to your squad position," the lieutenant barked. "Message from Squad 4, sir," Batman said, altering his voice to sound filtered and hollow through the trooper helmet. "Contact with the Phantoms. They're fortifying their position with explosives." The lieutenant's eyes widened. He keyed his comm. "All units, hold position. Targets may be rigged to blow." As he turned to relay the update to orbit, Batman struck. A quick jab to the throat, a follow-up strike to the temple. The lieutenant crumpled. Batman was at the comm console in seconds, plugging a data spike from his utility belt into the port. "Oracle, I'm in. Feeding you their tactical feed." "Got it. Uploading virus now. Give me 15 seconds, and done. Their sensors are now showing 600 life forms flooding the runoff channel. Thrawn's algorithms will see a mass escape attempt." "Perfect. Initiate Phase 2. Back at the nest, Nightwing and Red Hood triggered their charges. The controlled explosions rocked the sector, sending plumes of dust and debris into the air, perfectly selling the illusion of a last stand. Oracle fired the Batwing's damaged engines, creating a roaring inferno of noise and heat that lit up Imperial scopes. And as Thrawn's forces converged on the nest and the coolant channel, responding to the false data, the real Bat family executed their exit. Not through the channel, and not through the sky. They went down. Using mining charges from Jason's haul, they blew a hole in the refinery's floor, dropping into the ancient, forgotten sewer systems that predated Nar Shaddaa's current construction. They vanished into the literal underworld, leaving the Imperial net closing on empty air and false signals. Aboard the Chimaera, Grand Admiral Thrawn watched the feed from the planet below. The red dots representing the Phantoms flooded into the coolant channel and were marked as contained. But his sharp red eyes narrowed as he studied the aftermath. The explosions were too precise, the engine flare too convenient, the chaotic sensor ghosts too perfectly chaotic. He leaned back in his command chair, a faint, cold smile touching his lips. They had not behaved predictably. They had behaved creatively. They had not just avoided his trap. They had used it as a canvas to paint a deception for him. He had expected hunters or soldiers. He had found artists. "Interesting," Thrawn murmured to the empty bridge. He turned to his communications officer. "Recall all forces. The operation is concluded. Sir, we haven't captured. They are no longer there, Thrawn said simply. And we have learned something far more valuable than their location. We have learned how they think. Update the file on the Phantom Cell. Add a new classification. Yes, sir? Thrawn's red eyes gleamed in the bridge's low light. Label them unpredictable and escalate their threat priority to level 1. The Emperor will want to know that a new kind of enemy has arrived in his galaxy. Far below, wading through stagnant water in pitch darkness, the Bat family regrouped. They were homeless, hunted, and deeper in the belly of the beast than ever before. But they were together, and they were free. For now, the underworld of Nar Shaddaa was a tomb of forgotten ages. The acrid water reached their knees, carrying the chemical tang of industrial waste and the organic decay of centuries. Dim, bioluminescent fungi clung to the durasteel walls, providing the only illumination in a darkness so profound, even Batman's cowl struggled to render clear images. They moved in single file, weapons raised, every sense straining against the oppressive silence. Remind me again why we couldn't have just fought the Bucketheads. Red Hood's voice echoed in the vast tubular space, his helmet scanner painting the environment in stark thermal outlines. Because Thrawn expected that, Batman answered from the front, his voice a low rumble. He wanted a combat data set. Denying him that is more valuable than any temporary victory. He still got data. Oracle's voice chimed in their ears, clearer now that they'd boosted the relay signal through a series of local transmitters Tim had jury-rigged. He knows you can bypass his predictive algorithms. That in itself is valuable intelligence. But you've bought us time. Imperial presence in the lower industrial sectors has tripled. But they're searching the wrong layers. You're approximately 200 meters below their deepest sensor sweep. Comforting, Nightwing muttered, slipping on a slime-coated pipe. He caught himself with a dancer's grace. So what's the plan? Set up a new Batcave in a sewer? We need to surface, Batman stated. But not where they expect. Oracle, can you pinpoint a location above us that's outside their search grid and offers tactical advantages? Working. There's an old communications spire in the financial district. It's been decommissioned for years, but the infrastructure is intact. Minimal Imperial patrols. It's considered a dead zone. More importantly, it has a direct, hardwired data conduit to the planet's central archives. If Tim can tap it, we'd have access to everything from traffic control to financial records. A backdoor into the planet's brainstem, Tim said, interest peaked despite their situation. I like it. Then that's our objective. Batman changed direction, leading them toward a maintenance ladder that disappeared into the gloom above. We move fast and quiet. The moment we break surface, we're vulnerable. The ascent was a tense, 30-minute climb through layers of rust and decay. They emerged through a grated floor plate into a sub-basement filled with dead server stacks, the air stale and cold. The communications spire was a hollow needle of durasteel and transparasteel, its observation decks long abandoned. Through grime-caked windows, they could see the dizzying panorama of Nar Shaddaa's upper city, a neon-drenched tapestry of traffic lanes and towering sky towers. Home sweet home, Red Hood quipped, clearing a space amid the debris. Priorities, Batman ordered. Tim, get us access. Dick, Jason, secure the perimeter. Damian, with me. We're scavenging for anything usable. As the family set to work with the efficiency of long practice, Oracle guided Tim through slicing into the main data conduit. Within an hour, they had a flickering holographic display active in the center of the room. streams of information from across the moon flowing before them. "This is power," Tim whispered, his fingers dancing across a keyboard. "I can see Imperial troop movements in real time, commercial shipping manifests, private comms of the Hutt Council, it's all here." "Focus on Thrawn," Batman said, approaching the display. "Find his pattern, his next move." Before Tim could begin, a priority alert flashed on the screen. A secured, encrypted transmission broadcast on a wide band, repeating every few minutes. It wasn't Imperial. The coding was different, more organic. "Rebel," Oracle identified. "It's a distress call. A cell operating in the Kessel sector. Their cover's been blown. An Imperial light cruiser, the Persecutor, is moving to intercept their transport. They're broadcasting on every frequency, hoping for any friendly aid." A star map popped up, showing a trade route skirting the edge of Hutt space. The transport, a modified GR-75 medium transport dubbed the Liberty's Dawn, was 8 hours from Nar Shaddaa. The Persecutor would intercept in 3. Silence fell over the spire. All eyes turned to Batman. "We are not soldiers," he said, his voice hard. "We are not the cavalry." "They're going to die, Bruce," Nightwing said quietly. "That transport looks like it's carrying at least 100 people, if not more. Families, probably. There are injustices across this entire galaxy every minute. We cannot intervene in every one. Our mission is to survive, to understand our situation, and to find a way home without becoming entangled in a war." "And if entangled just means preventing a massacre?" Red Hood challenged. "We have the intel. We have the location. We have," he gestured to the crates of stolen gear, "the firepower. We have one damaged ship that can't fly," Batman countered. "The Liberty's Dawn can," Tim interjected, pulling up schematics. "And after it evades the Persecutor, it's scheduled for a layover at a neutral fueling station before jumping to the Rebel fleet. We could hitch a ride, get off Nar Shaddaa entirely. Thrawn would never predict it." The strategic value was clear. It was also a massive risk. Attacking an Imperial warship was an act of war. It would cement their status as enemies of the Empire beyond any bounty or rumor. "We'd be signing their death warrant if we fail," Oracle said. "And revealing ourselves to the rebels. We'd lose our anonymity." Damian, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "The Mandalorians would not hesitate. A weaker foe asks for aid against a stronger oppressor. To refuse when you have the means is dishonorable." "This isn't about honor," Batman snapped, then reined himself in. He looked at the faces of his family, lit by the blue glow of the hologram. He saw Nightwing's compassion, Jason's grim resolve, Tim's analytical hope, Damian's budding idealism, and in Oracle's silence, her unwavering support for whatever he decided. Alfred, in the background, merely waited, the moral compass that never needed to speak. He saw the same conflict he felt inside mirrored in them. The Batman of Gotham had clear lines. This galaxy blurred them all. "Oracle," he said finally, the word heavy. "Can we reach them in time?" Barbara's response was immediate. "If we leave now, the Batwing's engines are damaged, but its sublight drives are functional for short hops. It won't make the journey to the intercept point on its own, but..." She brought up a new schematic. "There's a Deveronian smuggler in Dock 73B who's scheduled to run a shipment of spice to the Kessel sector in 2 hours. His ship, the Wayward Sun, is fast and has a cloaking device. We could persuade him to take a detour." "Persuade?" Red Hood grinned. "I like that plan." "It's not a plan yet," Batman said. He stared at the blinking icon of the Liberty's Dawn. 100 lives. A choice. We do this on my terms. We disable the persecutor. We do not destroy it. We minimize Imperial casualties. We get the rebels to safety, and we use their transport to disappear. No alliances, no promises. We are a temporary intervention, is that clear? Nods all around. Then we move, now. Dock 73B was a cacophony of noise and foul smells. The Wayward Sun was a Corellian VCX 100 light freighter, old but meticulously maintained. Its owner, a hulking Deveronian named Gorak, was in the process of loading sealed crates when Batman dropped from the gantry above, landing directly in front of him. Gorak went for his blaster. A Batarang pinned his sleeve to a crate before his hand cleared leather. "I'm not here for your cargo," Batman said, his modulated voice cutting through the dock's din. "I need your ship." "Like hell you do," Gorak snarled, his red skin darkening with anger. Red Hood stepped out of the shadows, his blaster rifle pointed casually at the Deveronian's head. He wasn't asking. 10 minutes later, with a grumbling Gorak locked in his own smuggling compartment, the Bat family was strapped into the freighter's cockpit. Nightwing took the pilot's seat, his hands flowing over the controls with natural aptitude. "It's like the Whisper back home, just uglier," he said, firing up the engines. "Cloaking devices online," Oracle confirmed from the nest, her voice now their mission control. "I've plotted a course that keeps you in the sensor shadow of a nearby gas giant until the last possible moment. Remember, the Persecutor is our Quittens-class command cruiser. It has 4 dual turbo laser turrets and a complement of 4 TIE fighters. Its bridge is its nerve center, but its primary reactor is here." A schematic highlighted a spot near the ship's stern. "We're not destroying it," Batman reiterated, standing behind Nightwing. "We need it dead in the water long enough for the transport to jump to hyperspace. Then we hit the engine array and the command relay," Tim suggested. "A precision strike. The Wayward Sun has a dorsal laser cannon. It's not much, but if we get close enough, we'll need to be inside their shield bubble," Nightwing said. "Which means they'll see us the second we decloak to fire. So we give them something else to look at," Batman said. He turned to Red Hood and Robin. "You two will take the ship's port shuttle. It's unarmed, but it has a hyperdrive. You'll launch as a distraction, pretending to be a fleeing rebel craft. They'll launch their TIEs. While they're focused on you, we'll make our run." Red Hood nodded, a savage gleam in his eyes. "Finally, a fun job." The jump to the edge of the Kessel sector was a stomach-churning lurch through hyperspace. They reverted to real space in the silent void, the massive orange bulk of a gas giant filling the viewport. Ahead, the sleek, dagger-like shape of the Persecutor hung against the stars, its running lights gleaming. Further out, the bulky GR-75 transport was making a desperate run, its engines flaring. "Right on schedule," Oracle said. "TIEs are launching from the cruiser. They're moving to intercept the transport." "Launch the shuttle," Batman ordered. The small craft shot away from the Wayward Sun, its transponder broadcasting a fake rebel signature. Immediately, 2 of the 4 TIE fighters broke off from the transport and screamed toward it. "They took the bait," Nightwing said. "Cloaking engaged. Moving in." The freighter became a ghost, sliding through the dark toward the unsuspecting cruiser. On the scanner, they watched Red Hood and Damian in the shuttle, juking and weaving as the TIEs spat green laser bolts at them. "They're good," Tim admitted, watching the expert evasive maneuvers. "Focus," Batman said. "Target the command relay. Ready, Nightwing?" "Ready." They were within 500 meters, well inside the shield perimeter. Decloaking, now! The wayward sun shimmered into existence directly above the Persecutor's bridge. Nightwing didn't hesitate. The laser cannon fired, a sustained burst of red energy that carved into the cruiser's superstructure. Sparks and secondary explosions rippled along the hull as communications and sensor arrays were obliterated. Alarms blared across the Imperial ship. The remaining 2 TIEs scrambled, turning away from the transport. "Engine array next," Batman called. Nightwing swung the ship around, but one of the TIEs was already on them, lasers stitching across their shields. The freighter shuddered. Shields at 40%. "Jason, Damian, we need cover," Nightwing yelled into the comm. "On it." Red Hood's response was punctuated by the shuttle's single, pitiful laser firing, not at the TIE, but at the Persecutor's bridge viewport. It was a futile gesture, but it drew the TIE's attention for a crucial second. Nightwing took the opening. He dove, lining up the shot. The laser cannon fired again, this time hitting the stern engine ports. A brilliant flash erupted, and the Persecutor's main drives went dark, leaving it adrift. "That's it. They're disabled," Tim cheered. "Liberty's Dawn is powering up its hyperdrive," Oracle reported. "They're hailing us." On the comm, a woman's voice, full of static and hope. "Unidentified freighter. This is Captain Terrace of the Liberty's Dawn. We owe you our lives. Who are you?" Batman leaned over the comm. "You don't need our names. Get your people to safety, now. We have room. Come with us. Our path is different. Go." The transport, now unmolested, shot forward and vanished in a streak of blue light. On the scanner, the 2 TIEs chasing Red Hood's shuttle broke off, returning to their crippled mothership. The shuttle, scarred and smoking, limped back toward the wayward sun. "Mission accomplished," Nightwing breathed, a smile breaking through his concentration. But Batman was looking at the Persecutor. On its scarred hull, viewports were glowing. Life pods were launching. They had disabled it, but they had not sunk it. Hundreds of Imperial crew were still alive, evacuating. He had held to his code. No killing. Yet, as they recovered the shuttle and prepared to jump to hyperspace, a new, powerful signal washed over them. It was a tight beam transmission from the Persecutor on an Admiralty-level frequency. The voice that came through was cultured, calm, and carried the weight of absolute authority. It was not the ship's captain. "Phantom Cell. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn, broadcasting from the ISD Chimaera. I observed your intervention. A fascinating tactical choice. Mercy over annihilation. It reveals a moral framework, a constraint. Constraints are both a weakness and a signature. Thank you for this most enlightening data." The blood ran cold in the cockpit. Thrawn hadn't been on Nar Shaddaa. He'd been here, watching from the shadows of his Star Destroyer, using the Persecutor as bait in a larger trap. "You have saved 147 rebels today," Thrawn continued, his voice almost appreciative. "And in doing so, you have given me the final piece of your profile. I now understand what you are, and more importantly, I understand what you will do next." The transmission cut out. They sat in stunned silence, the weight of Thrawn's words pressing down. They had won the battle, but they had just lost a crucial part of the war: their anonymity, their unpredictability. Batman stared into the star-dotted blackness where the Chimaera undoubtedly lurked, unseen. "He knows," Tim said, his voice small. "He knows something," Batman corrected, his mind already churning, adapting. But he only knows what we've shown him, and we can show him something else. The wayward sun leaped to hyperspace, leaving the disabled cruiser and the haunting voice of Thrawn behind. They had made their choice. They had saved lives, and they had drawn the full, focused attention of the Empire's most brilliant mind. The shadows they operated in had just gotten infinitely darker. The wayward sun trembled as it exited hyperspace, not at a rebel fueling station, but in the silent, asteroid-strewn graveyard of a long-dead system. The detour had been Oracle's idea, a necessary deception. Thrawn would anticipate them fleeing to the rebels. So they went nowhere. "We can't stay on this ship," Nightwing said, powering down the engines. "Thrawn will have flagged its signature the moment we engaged." "Agreed," Batman said, already moving toward the airlock. A jagged asteroid, large enough to have its own negligible gravity, loomed outside. We transfer to the asteroid. Use the freighter as a decoy. Oracle, can you program it for a blind jump to the Corellian run? Already done, she replied from the nest, her voice strained with the effort of coordinating from light years away. It'll look like you're running for the busiest trade lane in the galaxy. It should draw any pursuit. Working with methodical speed, they transferred their essential gear and the stolen weapon crates to a cavernous hollow in the asteroid, using mag clamps to secure everything. Red Hood sent the wayward sun on its pre-programmed journey, the freighter vanishing in a flash of light, a ghost ship sailing toward a destination they would never visit. In the absolute darkness and silence of the asteroid cave, lit only by the glow of portable lamps, the weight of their situation settled upon them. Thrawn said he knows what we are. Tim voiced the fear they all felt. What does that mean? It means he's categorized us, Batman said, setting up a portable comm unit. He's not a mystic. He's a tactician. He doesn't deal in what we are, but in what we do. He's built a predictive model based on our actions. We protect the helpless. We avoid unnecessary killing. We use misdirection. We value each other's lives. These are patterns. Patterns can be exploited. So we break the patterns, Red Hood said. We hit something he'd never expect, an Imperial bank, a senator's palace, something with no moral high ground, just pure chaos. And become exactly what the Empire says we are, terrorists, Nightwing countered. That's playing into his hands, Jason. Then what's the move, Bruce? Dick asked, turning to the dark figure standing apart, a silhouette against the star-dusted view of space through the cavern mouth. Batman was silent for a long moment. We let him think he's right. We feed his model, and then we introduce a variable his algorithms can't process. What variable? Ourselves. Split up. The statement landed like a detonation. Damian was the first to protest. That is tactically unsound. Our strength is in our cohesion. And our predictability, Batman shot back. Thrawn is looking for a cell, a unified entity with a single operational pattern. So we stop being one entity. We become 5, 6, including Oracle. He activated a holographic map of the sector. We operate independently in different regions, targeting different types of objectives. Jason, you hit the criminal underworld. Hard. No restraint. Make the Black Sun and the Hutts scream. Be the Red Hood they're starting to fear. A grim smile touched Jason's lips. Finally. Dick, you work the middle. Help people. Be visible. Be a hero. Liberate slave pens. Disrupt corrupt officials. Be the hope in the darkness. The opposite of Jason. Create a dichotomy they can't reconcile. Nightwing nodded slowly, seeing the shape of it. Tim, you go deep. Infiltrate. Use your skills to get inside the Imperial machine. I need you to become a ghost in their system, gathering intelligence on Thrawn himself. Find his weaknesses, his resources, his true objectives. Red Robin adjusted his gloves, a look of focused determination replacing his earlier anxiety. I can do that. Damian. Batman's voice softened a fraction. You return to the Mandalorians, not as a liaison, but as a student. Learn everything. Their ships, their tactics, their networks. Become the bridge we might need. Damian stood straighter, accepting the mission with a solemn nod. And you, Father? He asked. I will be the shadow Thrawn expects. I'll let him chase me. I'll make enough noise to keep his eyes fixed on the phantom cell he thinks he understands. He looked at them all, his family, scattered by fate and now by design. We maintain contact through Oracle on encrypted, rotating frequencies. We do not reveal our connection to each other. We are separate legends growing in the dark until the moment we choose not to be. It was a desperate, brilliant, terrifying plan. It leveraged their individual strengths and exploited the Empire's need to categorize threats. A vigilante, a hero, a spy, a warrior, and a legend, all operating independently, creating a storm of conflicting data for Thrawn to parse. How long? Oracle asked. As long as it takes for Thrawn to doubt his own model, Batman said, or for us to find a way home. Whichever comes first. They spent the next hours preparing, dividing gear, establishing codes, and dead drops. There were no sentimental goodbyes. This was a mission. But as Red Hood clasped Nightwing's forearm, and Tim gave Damian a quiet nod, the unspoken bond thrummed between them. One by one, they left the asteroid in the stolen Imperial escape pods from the wayward sun, programmed for different, far-flung destinations. Batman watched each pod streak away into the void, a solitary sentinel in the dark. He was the last to leave. His destination was not a planet, but a ship. Weeks passed. On the glitzy, corrupt world of Canto Bight, a masked man in red helmet and armored leather single-handedly stormed the fortified villa of a Black Sun Vigo. No demands, no speeches, just brutal, efficient violence. When the local authorities arrived, they found the Vigo hanging upside down from his own chandelier, surrounded by tied-up guards and a data terminal flashing with evidence of his crimes. A message was burned into the wall in blaster scorch. Justice has a new face. The legend of the Red Hood began to spread through the criminal underworld, a specter of retribution that asked for no bribes and offered no mercy. On the drought-ridden planet of Tatooine, a figure in blue and black moved through the dust-choked streets of Mos Eisley. He didn't fight the Empire directly. He intercepted slavers trying to kidnap farmers. He exposed the moisture merchant who was skimming from the poor. He was a whirlwind of acrobatic grace and non-lethal force, a symbol of hope that appeared and vanished like a mirage. Children started whispering about the blue spirit who stole from the wicked and gave to the desperate. Deep in the bureaucratic bowels of an Imperial regional headquarters on Denon, a new junior data analyst named Jax Thon reported for duty. He was quiet, unassuming, and preternaturally skilled with code. Firewalls meant nothing to him. Encrypted files yielded their secrets. He never took anything, only looked. And in looking, he began mapping the entire flow of Imperial intelligence in the sector, noting every query that originated from the office of Grand Admiral Thrawn. In a Mandalorian camp on the forest moon of Concordia, a young outsider trained with relentless determination. He earned grudging respect, not just for his sword, which could match a Beskad, but for his tactical mind. He asked questions about ship deployments, about hyperlane routes patrolled by the Empire, about the weaknesses in Imperial Star Destroyer designs. The Mandalorians, appreciating a warrior who sought knowledge as fervently as combat prowess, began to answer. And on Nar Shaddaa, the shadow returned. Batman didn't hide. He let himself be seen, a flicker on a rooftop during a Hutt assassination, a dark shape passing a window during an Imperial raid on a spice den. He struck with precision, freeing captives, destroying slave databases, sabotaging Imperial sensor grids. He was a ghost, but a loud one. He left a trail of chaos and confusion, always one step ahead of the Stormtrooper squads and Inquisitors that now seemed to haunt every level of the Smuggler's Moon. He was the bait, and the hook was set. Aboard the Chimaera, Grand Admiral Thrawn stood before a massive holodisplay in his personal meditation chamber. It was not a star map, but a complex shifting web of data points, images, and behavioral analyses. 6 distinct profiles glowed. Subject, Red Hood. Classification, punitive vigilante. Pattern, high-intensity assaults on criminal syndicates. Lethal force authorized. Motivation appears driven by personal code of retribution, not ideology. Psychological profile suggests deep-seated trauma repurposed as rage. Subject, Blue Spirit. Classification, altruistic protector. Pattern, small-scale, non-lethal interventions aiding civilian populations, avoids direct conflict with Imperial assets. Motivation aligns with classic hero archetype, potentially exploitable through threat to protected communities. Subject, Analyst Jax. Classification, covert infiltrator. Pattern, deep cover intelligence gathering within Imperial infrastructure. Methodology suggests advanced slicing capability and profound understanding of systemic vulnerabilities. Goal appears to be strategic mapping, not immediate sabotage. Subject, Robin Mandalorian Foundling. Classification, warrior infiltrator. Pattern, cultural assimilation into Mandalorian society with focus on tactical and technical intelligence gathering. Suggests long-term strategic planning for alliance or resource acquisition. Subject, the Shadow Phantom Prime. Classification, tactical leader and provocateur. Pattern, deliberately visible operations designed to elicit response. Maintains core non-lethal ethic despite escalated opposition. Actions serve as both practical disruption and psychological warfare. Believed to be the unifying node of the original cell. Thrawn's crimson eyes studied the web. The data was rich, voluminous. It confirmed his initial thesis. A cell of exceptional, non-force-sensitive individuals with a rigid moral core. The split was a predictable response to his pressure. Divide to survive. Yet, a flicker of discordance. He zoomed in on timelines, cross-referencing events. The Red Hood's assault on Canto Bight had occurred the same day the Blue Spirit had exposed the corrupt moisture merchant on Tatooine. 2 operations requiring meticulous planning on opposite sides of the sector. The probability of a single, divided cell coordinating such geographically disparate, ideologically opposite strikes was low. Too low. He called up the file on Analyst Jax. The precision of the slicer's work was familiar. It mirrored the elegance of the slave collar override on Nar Shaddaa. A signature. He superimposed the tactical analysis of the Shadow recent activities with the known capabilities of the Red Hood and the Blue Spirit. The fighting styles, even when adjusted for context, shared foundational techniques, a common schooling. And the Mandalorian foundling, his questions were too specific. He wasn't just learning to be a warrior, he was conducting military reconnaissance. Thrawn's lips pressed into a thin line. He had been presented with a beautifully packaged theory. a fractured cell. But the evidence, when viewed not as separate strands, but as a whole tapestry, suggested something else. Not a cell that had shattered, a cell that had multiplied. He was not hunting one phantom, he was hunting a constellation of them, each a piece of a larger, decentralized whole. The split was not a sign of weakness, it was a force multiplier. And the moral code he had identified as a constraint. Was it a constraint or a camouflage? A way to make their actions predictable on the surface, while masking a deeper, unified strategy. For the first time since encountering them, Grand Admiral Thrawn felt not the cool satisfaction of understanding, but the faint, thrilling chill of uncertainty. He had learned everything about them, and in doing so, he realized he might know nothing at all. "Lieutenant," he calmed the bridge, "recall the seventh sister, and prepare a transmission for Darth Vader. The situation has evolved. The Phantoms are not merely insurgents. They are a pandemic, and they are spreading." In his hidden perch overlooking the neon scars of Nar Shaddaa, Batman received Oracle's coded pulse, a single, prearranged signal. Thrawn has called for Vader. The bait had been taken. The predator had been lured. But in doing so, they had summoned something infinitely more dangerous. The variable had been introduced. The game had changed. Now, they would see if their divided family could survive the attention of the Dark Lord of the Sith. The message from Oracle was not a voice, but a data burst. A compressed scream of warning that decompressed in Batman's cowl with chilling clarity. Thrawn-Vader connection established. Primary target confirmed. You. Fallback Protocol Delta immediate. Protocol Delta. Scatter and vanish. The plan had worked too well. They had successfully confused Thrawn, but his response was to escalate beyond tactical analysis, to raw, overwhelming power. Darth Vader was not a thinker to be outmaneuvered with misdirection. He was a natural disaster in black armor. Batman didn't hesitate. He was already moving, a shadow detaching from the ledge of a gambling den, his cape billowing as he grappled down into the reeking Undercity. He had to get off Nar Shaddaa, but every spaceport would be under Imperial lockdown by now. Thrawn would have anticipated a run for the stars. So Batman went deeper. He descended into the planetoid's ancient core, through layers of infrastructure so old, even the Hutts had forgotten them. His destination was a relic from a more anarchic age. A subterranean dry dock, a pirate's nest abandoned after a long-forgotten Imperial purge. Oracle had flagged it weeks ago as a potential bolt hole. Tucked away in a corroded service bay was a vessel, a Gutrock 720 light freighter, its hull pitted and its paint faded. But according to Oracle's deep scans, its hyperdrive was intact. As he approached the ship, a familiar, grim voice crackled in his ear on their most secure frequency. "You've officially pissed off the big guys, old man." Red Hood's signal was weak, bouncing off a dozen illegal relays. He was somewhere in the corporate sector. "Status," Batman barked, overriding the ship's primitive lock with a cryptographic key from his gauntlet. "Hot. The imps have my description circulating to every bounty guild. I'm having to be creative, but I'm mobile. Heard the news about our guest. You need an extra gun. Stay on mission. Maintain separation." The freighter's ramp lowered with a groan of protesting hydraulics. "Separation isn't going to help when Vader comes knocking on your specific door, Bruce." Before Batman could reply, another voice, calmer but laced with urgency, cut in. It was Tim, broadcasting from deep within the Imperial machine. "He's not just coming for you, Bruce. Thrawn's analysis has been forwarded to the Executor. Vader has the full profile. He knows about the moral code, He'll use it. Explain. He'll create a situation you can't walk away from. A test of your constraints. Thrawn's covering the how. Vader will handle the when and where. I'm trying to access the dispatch logs, but security is... The signal dissolved into static, then went dead. Red Robin? Oracle's voice, tight with fear, flooded the channel. Tim, come in. Silence. The air in the dry dock grew colder. Tim had been compromised. Oracle, trace that signal loss. Now. Batman was in the freighter's cockpit, hands flying over the startup sequence. The engines coughed, sputtered, then caught with a deep, reassuring thrum. I can't. His beacon just vanished. Imperial counterslice. It must have tripped a worm. They have him, Bruce. A wave of cold fury washed through Batman, instantly controlled, channeled into focus. Losing Tim was not an option. It violated the prime directive of their family. No one gets left behind. But going after him now would be a trap. It was exactly what Vader would expect. As the freighter lifted on repulsors, the decision crystallized. He wouldn't go to Tim. Tim was a bat. He would have protocols. He would know what to do. Batman opened a channel to the last known secure node Tim had established. He transmitted a single coded burst. Hold. Dawn comes. It was a message only Tim would understand. A command to endure and a promise. He powered up the hyperdrive, inputting coordinates not for escape, but for confrontation. He couldn't run. Thrawn and Vader would simply hound him across the galaxy, endangering the others. He had to control the battlefield. His destination? The Chimaera. The Star Destroyer hung in the void near the Hydian Way. A dagger of Imperial might. Batman's stolen freighter was a gnat against its bulk. He didn't try to run the blockade or fight. He surrendered. Unidentified freighter, cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. This is the Phantom, Batman responded, his voice calm through the comm. Tell Grand Admiral Thrawn I am here to discuss his theory. The silence from the Star Destroyer was profound. Then, a new voice, smooth as ice, filled the cockpit. You are either remarkably brave or terminally foolish. I suspect both. Welcome, Shadow. A shuttle will bring you to me. Come unarmed. A tractor beam locked onto the freighter, guiding it into the cavernous main hangar of the Chimaera. Batman stood at the top of the ramp as it lowered, surrounded by a full company of Stormtroopers. Their blasters raised. Behind them, the red blades of two Imperial Inquisitors, seventh sister and a new, hulking figure, the fifth brother, hummed with menace. Batman descended slowly, his hands visible, his cape pooling around him. He was a statue of darkness amidst the sterile white and gray of the hangar. Search him, seventh sister sneered. The Stormtroopers approached. Batman didn't resist as they removed his utility belt, his grapnel, his spare batarangs. They missed the microcharges sewn into his cape's lining, the lockpicks embedded in his gloves, the neural disruptor in his cowl's tooth cavity. He was never truly unarmed. The Grand Admiral will see you now. The fifth brother grunted, gesturing with his lightsaber. They marched him through the immaculate, cold corridors of the Star Destroyer to the observation deck. The room was a wide curve of transparent steel overlooking the stars. Grand Admiral Thrawn stood with his hands clasped behind his back, studying him as one would a fascinating, dangerous specimen. You are shorter than I expected, Thrawn said, his red eyes missing no detail. But the presence is substantial. You have come to negotiate for your captured operative. I've come to understand your model, Batman replied, his voice echoing in the spacious room. You believe you've solved me. that my code is a set of rules you can manipulate. Is it not? Thrawn turned fully to face him. Your actions are a textbook of constraints. You could have killed the crew of the Persecutor. You did not. You could have allied with the Mandalorians for greater power. You did not. You could be raining terror upon Imperial worlds. Yet you limit yourself to surgical strikes against what you perceive as injustice. These are not the actions of a revolutionary. They are the actions of a moralist. And morality in war is a predictable and therefore vulnerable geometry. Batman took a step forward. The Inquisitors tensed. You're right. My code is a constraint. But you're wrong about its purpose. It's not a limit on my power, it's a limit on yours. Thrawn's brow furrowed slightly. Explain. You believe fear is the ultimate tool. You use it to control billions. My code proves fear is unnecessary. I achieve my goals without terror, without indiscriminate violence. I prove your entire foundation is flawed. That's not a weakness, Admiral. That's a threat to the very idea of the Empire. For the first time, Thrawn looked genuinely intrigued, not just analytically interested. You seek to defeat us philosophically. I seek to prove you're wrong. Batman's lenses reflected the starlight. And in doing so, I make you doubt. A soldier who doubts is vulnerable. An empire built on fear that begins to question its own necessity is already dead. The observation deck doors hissed open. The air grew thick, cold, and heavy with a palpable darkness. The Stormtroopers snapped to attention. The Inquisitors lowered their heads. Darth Vader entered. He was a mountain of black armor and tortured breath, filling the room with his sheer, dreadful presence. The Force, a current Batman could not feel but could sense in the reactions of others, bent around him like gravity around a singularity. Thrawn gave a slight, respectful nod. Lord Vader, the subject of our study. Vader's masked face turned toward Batman. The lenses seemed to peer into his very soul, probing for the Force signature that wasn't there, finding only a void, a will of pure, unshakable discipline. You are the one who eludes the Force. Vader's voice was the grinding of tectonic plates, the sound of a furnace door closing. A null, an anomaly. I'm a man, Batman said, standing firm against the psychic weight pressing down on him. That's all I've ever needed to be. Your morality, Vader said the word like a curse, has made you predictable. The Grand Admiral believes you can be turned to our purpose, or dismantled through your own rules. I believe you are a distraction to be removed. Then remove me. Batman's challenge hung in the air, but you won't do it here. Not with a blast of your power or a swing of your blade. Because Thrawn needs the data. And you need to prove his model wrong. You need to break me my way, on my terms. The silence stretched. Thrawn watched, a scientist observing two potent forces collide. Vader took one step forward, then another, stopping mere feet from Batman. The boy? Vader rasped. The infiltrator? He is your operative. Your son in spirit, if not blood. Batman's heart turned to ice, but his exterior remained granite. He is currently in an interrogation cell on sub-level Gamma 9, Thrawn provided calmly. His resistance is admirable, but all resistance has a limit. This is your test, Batman stated, seeing the trap with perfect clarity. You want to see if my code breaks when it's my family at stake. If I'll abandon my rules to save him. Will you? Vader asked. Batman looked from Vader to Thrawn. He had walked into the heart of the Empire, surrounded by its greatest weapons. He was weaponless, outnumbered, and outpowered. This was their victory. which was exactly what he needed them to believe. "No," Batman said. He moved, not toward Vader, not toward the door. He lunged sideways, his cape snapping out. The microcharges sewn into the hem detonated, not explosions, but blinding concussive bursts of light and sound, tuned to overwhelm helmet sensors and organic eyes. The observation deck plunged into a chaos of screaming alarms and disoriented stormtroopers. The Inquisitors, attuned to the Force, recoiled but didn't falter. Seventh Sister screamed in rage, her lightsaber lashing out. Batman was already under the swing, his armored gauntlet driving into a pressure point on her wrist. The lightsaber deactivated and clattered to the floor. He spun, using her own momentum to hurl her into the fifth brother. Thrawn was shouting orders, backing toward a console. Vader stood unmoved in the center of the chaos, his hand rising. Batman didn't try to fight the Force, he anticipated it. As the crushing telekinetic grip seized him, he triggered the neural disruptor in his cowl. It wasn't aimed at Vader. It was a focused electromagnetic pulse directed at the deck's main power conduit above the Dark Lord's head. The conduit burst in a shower of sparks and arcing electricity. The sudden power surge fouled the delicate systems in Vader's chest panel and life support systems. For a fraction of a second, the grip on Batman faltered as Vader's concentration broke, his mechanical systems glitching. It was all the opening Batman needed. He ripped a section of sparking conduit from the wall, not a weapon, but a tool. He jammed it into the control console next to Thrawn, overloading the systems. The entire deck's security protocol activated in reverse. The blast doors, meant to seal, slammed open. The emergency lighting, meant to guide, plunged the hallway beyond into strobe-like darkness. "He's not after us," Thrawn realized, his cultured voice sharp with sudden understanding. "He's after the ship." Batman vanished into the chaotic, flashing darkness of the corridor. His goal was not escape. It was sub-level Gamma 9. The Chimaera was no longer a trap. It was his battlefield. And he knew its layout intimately, thanks to weeks of data from analyst Jax. As alarms blared and Vader's furious, mechanized breath echoed behind him, Batman became a ghost in the machine, moving toward his son. The test had begun. But it wasn't a test of his code, it was a test of theirs. The Chimaera's innards became a labyrinth of panic and pursuit. Batman flowed through the chaos like ink through water. He didn't fight the squads of stormtroopers converging on the observation deck. He slipped past them in the strobe-lit darkness, using the emergency protocols he had triggered as his cloak. He moved with a predator's knowledge of the terrain, a knowledge paid for by Tim's silent, weeks-long infiltration. Sub-level Gamma 9 was a sterile, cold place, dedicated to the Imperial art of breaking minds. Batman found the interrogation cell not by searching, but by following the trail of unconscious technicians and shattered surveillance droids. Red Robin had not gone quietly. The cell door was a reinforced slab, sealed by a magnetic lock. Batman didn't bother with the keypad. He placed a microthermal charge from his glove at the hinge junction, turned his head, and felt the concussive thump more than heard it. The door sagged inward. He ripped it aside. Inside, Tim Drake was strapped to an interrogation chair, his Red Robin uniform torn, his face bruised, but his eyes alert and blazing with defiance. The room's single other occupant, an Imperial interrogator in a crisp uniform, fumbled for a holdout blaster. A batarang knocked it from his hand and pinned his sleeve to the console. "Took you long enough," Tim said, his voice hoarse but a ghost of a smile on his lips. "You were supposed to hold." Batman said, swiftly slicing through the restraints with a ceramic blade from his vambrace. I did. Then I got bored. Tim stumbled as he stood, but Batman caught him, supporting his weight. They were using a psychosomatic scanner, trying to map my memories for patterns. I was feeding them looped data when you blew the lights. Can you run? Try and stop me. They moved back into the corridor. The element of surprise was gone. The ship-wide comms crackled with Thrawn's cool, furious voice. All decks. Intruders are in sub-level Gamma. They are to be contained, not killed. Lord Vader wishes them functional for questioning. Functional. A word that promised broken bones and a conscious mind. They'll funnel us to the main hangar or the shuttle bays. Tim gasped as they ran. Every route will be blocked. We're not leaving, Batman said, changing direction sharply, heading not up, but down, into the deeper service arteries of the massive ship. What? Bruce, we can't stay here. We're not staying. We're taking it. Tim's eyes widened behind his mask. He understood instantly. The Chimaera was Thrawn's brain, his command, his ultimate symbol of Imperial order. Seizing it, even for a moment, would be a psychological blow more devastating than destroying a dozen Star Destroyers. It would prove their theory wrong in the most visceral way possible. They descended into the engineering superstructure, a cathedral of machinery humming with the power of a city. Here, the crew were technicians, not soldiers. Batman and Tim moved through them like wraiths, disabling with precise, non-lethal strikes. They reached the primary engineering control center, a room of towering consoles and a massive holographic schematic of the ship's systems. Two engineering officers turned, their protests dying in their throats as batarangs found their nerve clusters. Batman went to the main console. Tim, leaning heavily on a panel, began slicing into the security override. I need 5 minutes to lock them out of primary control, Tim said, his fingers flying. You have 3. Batman sealed the blast doors and set to work. His goal wasn't to pilot the ship. That was impossible for 2 people. His goal was to make it scream. He rerouted power from weapons and shields to the internal comm system and external projectors. He triggered non-critical alarms in every compartment. He activated containment fields in random corridors, sealing Stormtrooper squads in their own traps. On the bridge, Grand Admiral Thrawn watched his perfect ship descend into chaos. Systems reported failures that shouldn't be possible. Internal sensors showed intruders everywhere and nowhere. The elegant predictive model was crumbling under the weight of sheer disruptive chaos. They are in engineering, Thrawn said, his voice still calm but edged with cold fire. They are attempting to hijack the vessel's nervous system, a pointless symbolic gesture. Darth Vader stood beside him, a statue of simmering wrath. Symbols have power. End this, now. They are beneath the main reactor chamber, Thrawn observed, studying the schematic. Seal them in. Flood the compartment with neural toxin. We will harvest the bodies and the data. The order was given. In engineering, warning klaxons blared a new, urgent pattern. Vents opened in the ceiling. They're gasping us, Tim called out. Batman didn't look up. Almost done. He input a final command sequence. Now. On every viewport, every monitor, every external projector on the Chimaera's hull, the image flickered and changed. The Imperial crest vanished. In its place, glowing against the black of space, appeared a simple, stark symbol, the black silhouette of a bat. It was not a call to arms. It was a signature, a message. We were here. At that moment, The main engineering blast door shuddered. Not from the outside, from within. The metal glowed orange, then white, and then melted away as a red lightsaber carved a molten circle through the durasteel. Darth Vader stepped through the dripping slag, his cape sweeping behind him, the very air cracking with his fury. "Your symbolism is meaningless," Vader intoned, his blade rising. "Your rebellion ends here." Batman pushed Tim behind a console. He had no weapon that could block a lightsaber, no power that could match the Force. He had only what he had always had: his mind, his will, and his mission. "It's not rebellion," Batman said, squaring his shoulders against the advancing darkness. "It's a reminder." He reached to his utility belt, not for a weapon, but for a small, disc-shaped device. He slammed it onto the deck. It wasn't an explosive. It was a resonance emitter, tuned weeks ago by Oracle using scans of Mandalorian Beskar. It emitted a shrieking, multi-frequency harmonic. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic in the confined space. The harmonic interacted violently with the precise frequencies of Vader's life support systems and cybernetic limbs. The Dark Lord staggered, a wrenching, mechanical gasp erupting from his vocoder as his systems feedbacked. His lightsaber wavered. It was a distraction, not a defeat. It bought seconds. "Tim, the vent!" Batman shouted, pointing to a large maintenance duct whose cover Tim had already pried loose. Red Robin didn't argue. He scrambled into the dark opening. Vader roared, the Force exploding outward in a wave of pure, telekinetic rage that shattered consoles and hurled machinery through the air. Batman was flung back, crashing against the far wall. Pain lanced through his ribs. He pushed himself up, seeing Vader regaining his equilibrium, the red blade steadying, aimed at his heart. This was the moment Thrawn had predicted. The moral choice: stand and die, or flee and leave his mission unfinished. A constraint. Batman reached to his belt again. His last tool. Not a weapon, but a beacon. He activated it. Outside the Chimaera, in the silent space where Batman's stolen freighter had been tractored, a new signal bloomed on Imperial scopes. A ship, dropping out of hyperspace at point-blank range in a reckless, suicidal move that bypassed all outer perimeter warnings. It was a Mandalorian Commerce-class fighter, fast and heavily armed. And it was not alone. Flanking it were two more ships. A sleek, modified RZ-1 A-Wing that danced through space with impossible grace, and a battered but menacing Firespray-class patrol craft that had Bounty Hunter written in every scar on its hull. The Bat family had never truly separated. They had diversified. The Commerce fighter opened fire, not on the Chimaera's bridge, but on its primary sensor array. The A-Wing streaked toward the main hangar bay, its lasers stitching precise patterns across the doors to prevent TIE launches. The Firespray poured cannon fire into the Star Destroyer's engine nacelles, not to destroy, but to harass and distract. On the bridge, Thrawn watched, his red eyes wide with genuine, stunned surprise. They are not a cell. They are a squadron, each a specialist. The model was incomplete. In engineering, Vader sensed the assault. His attention split between the enemy in front of him and the attack on his ship. In that fractional hesitation, Batman moved. He didn't attack. He dove for the maintenance duct. Vader's lightsaber slashed through the space where he'd been, cutting the console in half. The Dark Lord turned toward the vent, his hand rising to crush it with the Force. Before he could, the entire Chimaera lurched violently. The Mandalorian fighter's barrage had finally knocked out the primary sublight drive stabilizers. The great ship began a slow, uncontrolled drift. "My lord," Thrawn's voice came over Vader's comm. "We have lost primary control. The vessel is vulnerable. The rebels could have a fleet lying in wait. We must regroup." Vader stood amidst the sparking ruin of engineering, the bat symbol still glowing on every screen around him. He could pursue the vermin into the ducts, hunt them through the bowels of his own crippled ship, or he could preserve the Empire's most valuable strategic asset and its most brilliant commander. With a sound of pure, unfiltered rage, Darth Vader extinguished his lightsaber. He turned and stalked back the way he came, the ship's alarms, his funeral dirge. In the ducts, Batman found Tim waiting. Together, they followed a pre-planned route that led them to an emergency escape pod bay, one whose launch controls Oracle had helpfully unlocked. They launched just as the Chimaera's tractor beams, flickering from the power fluctuations, tried and failed to grab them. The pod spun into the void. A minute later, it was snatched into the belly hatch of the waiting Commerk fighter. As the hatch sealed, Batman found himself in the dim cargo hold, facing Damian in full Mandalorian armor. Borrowed, not earned, but worn with a newfound respect. Nightwing was at the cockpit controls, and Red Hood stood leaning against a support beam, his arms crossed. "Took you long enough," Jason said, but the relief in his voice was palpable. "You came," Batman stated, looking at them all. "You didn't really think we'd leave you two to have all the fun, did you?" Nightwing called back, punching the hyperdrive lever. As the stars stretched into lines, Batman looked at his family, reunited not by chance, but by choice. They had faced the ultimate power of the Empire and not just survived. They had left their mark on its very soul. They were no longer phantoms. They were a legend. The tale of the Bat family's arrival in a galaxy far, far away did not end with a triumphant return home, nor with a final decisive victory over the Empire. Instead, it ended as it began, in the shadows, on their own terms. The Chimaera was repaired, its bat scar digitally scrubbed from every record, but not from memory. Grand Admiral Thrawn's report to the Emperor spoke not of a defeated enemy, but of a new kind of threat, one that could not be classified, could not be predicted, and could not be corrupted. Darth Vader's silent fury forged a new, personal vendetta in the cold heart of the Dark Lord. And across the Outer Rim, in the whispers of cantinas and the hopes of oppressed worlds, new stories spread, of a shadow that could outthink an Imperial Grand Admiral, of a blue spirit who defended the helpless, of a Red Hood who terrified the wicked, of a silent ghost in the Imperial machine, and a warrior learning the ways of Mandalore. They were not a rebellion. They were something more potent, a proof of concept, proof that one did not need the Force, nor vast armies, nor a willingness to sacrifice one's soul to make a galaxy tremble. All one needed was unwavering will, indomitable family, and the courage to be a light or a terrifying darkness in the black. The Bat family found no way back to Gotham. But in the endless night of the Star Wars galaxy, they found a new purpose, a new cave, and a universe of criminals, tyrants, and slavers who would learn to fear the night. For they were no longer just survivors. They were the watchful protectors, the silent guardians, the dark knights of a galaxy far, far away.